That is what I'm talking about. Man, do I love that intro. What is up, everybody? Welcome, Arvanauts, to a Saturday stream. It is day 8 of Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks, sponsored as always by Alligator Alley Entertainment, and it is the conclusion tonight of Planetfall as we get ready to move back to the fantasy characters and prepare, perhaps in the very near future, to connect the two groups, believe it or not. Hard to believe. But we're almost there, where they're going to be coming together, and then a choice will have to be made. But we will see what happens in the course of our adventure tonight. Before we go any further, just a couple of reminders about ways to support the channel. If you have not done so already, please consider following the channel. Please check out our YouTube with the !ArvTube. Our Discord is !ArvCord. Our Twitter is !ArvTweets. And our website is arvaneleron.com. And we would love to have you be supporting us if you can follow and sub to all of those different places. That is always appreciated. Please check out as well the financial stuff on this channel. First of all, we have, as always, !Arv Shop. That's a merchandise area that will be under heavy construction, so to speak, over the next couple of months. But still, you can go there and get some swag to help out the channel. !Arv Treon is the Patreon, which will allow you to support the channel as well. That's kind of the financial backbone of the channel. And you can get inspirations to help the players. I should say that I do not have the inspirations reset yet. I'm afraid it's been kind of a crazy past week that I've been talking about, so I have not gotten to do that yet. I'm going to have a chance to do that tonight. I'll be able to reset those inspirations. But so tonight, if someone tries to inspire and it's not there, or you're like, wait, I should have one, you probably will, and we'll work it out. It'll be fine. But Patreon is really great. Subbing to the channel also gets you custom sub badges and emotes to help with Twitch, custom sub badges and emotes to use everywhere across Twitch, and you can get inspirations to help our players if you support us that way, so please consider doing that. Of course, you can also support us on the publishing side. Icarus is my graphic novel from Athos Arts. Library is Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. That is my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment. And, of course, Greyshade, which is the novel which came out last year from Athos Arts. That link will allow you to order that book. It will let you pre-order the sequels. Renegade is coming out later this year. Heretic will be out next year. The tabletop role-playing game of Greyshade, designed by Brandon O'Brien, later this year. And the audiobook of Greyshade, done by Trent Sparks, will be later this year as well. So you can do all of that by checking out Greyshade. That would be very much appreciated. I should also mention, by the way, about Alligator Alley, that, of course, they are the sponsors. I think I did say this, but again, sponsored by Alligator Alley of this campaign as well. So definitely you should support us with Tales and Tomes going forward. And last but certainly not least, as always, BLM, Black Lives Matter. Very important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and to reach out to others when they need help as well. And Ukraine, UKRAINE, to help the fine people of Ukraine as they fight back against a devastating war which has destroyed so much of their country, but they continue to fight back with bravery and courage, and this is a way for us to help them in that effort, and to send the message that we will do that in other circumstances similar to that as well. Quick programming note, Expedition tonight, we will be quiet on Sunday and Monday, but we will be back on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Please note the changed time. I will be over on GOG's Twitch channel for more Pen and Pixels and Chained Echoes. And then at 5 p.m. Eastern, I'll be back on this channel for more Shire Adventures. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Sponsored, of course, by Free League Publishing. That'll be happening on Tuesday. Then we're Dark Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday, I will be heading off to Farpoint. But I do expect to be able to have things like, for example, a appearance on Court of Blades, which is going to be happening Friday night. And if all goes well, I might be able to sneak in a stream of sorcery on Saturday night, but I don't know because I'm going to be driving back from the con, and I may or may not be back in a place where I can do that yet. So Saturday is up in the air next Saturday, but at least Friday will be definite. And as I mentioned, there are a couple of conferences and conventions going on this month, but we will work around that schedule-wise. Thank you, Emily. I live in a lighthouse. Shire, exactly. Yeah, speaking of my house, it's up to now 70.5 degrees in my office. So we're almost up to back to normal. I'd like to get up to about 72 is where I normally keep it. So we're almost back to normal. And that's because it's gradually warmed up to a balmy, where are we now? It's just about 20 degrees, I think. Yeah, it's 19 degrees outside, but it is going to be steadily rising in temperature over the night and into tomorrow. And by the end, by about the midday, a little bit before that, 2 p.m. or so tomorrow, it'll be up to 43 degrees, and it's going to be mostly 40s and 50s next week. So what even is weather? What a strange thing. But anyway, we are warm. The hot chocolate that was kindly gifted to us yesterday has been distributed among family members, for which they are all grateful. So thank you again to the Dunsels for that. And yeah, we are ready to go here. So I am going to unmute myself and apologize profusely for whoever I'm interrupting because I can't hear them at the moment. And then I am going to unmute them so that I can hear them. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to head over to reveal that I have mistakenly not changed one webcam picture because there was a change in that. Darn it. And I was warned, I was told definitively, make sure that you're careful about that. Nope, not quite. That was the different one. Don't move anything. I got it. I got this. I am a I is pro streamer. There we go. Now we see everyone is properly in the right place. Sorry about that. We're here. We're ready to go. Hi, how are you? There are no problems. Everything is fine. I'm going to start with this amazing crew of players. It is wonderful to see them again, the members of Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks. Let's start with the person on the top left here, who is one Mr. Johnny Pittman. It's good to see you, Johnny. How is life in the universe with you, sir? Also, what shirt have we got today? What is this shirt that I'm looking at? I can't quite. I don't see. Does that have some distinction that I should be aware of that I don't know?
Anybody? Well, it is from a I don't even know how to describe it anymore. It is from a show that's almost 20 years old. Actually, it is 20 years old this last year.
20 years old.
And there was a movie that came out about 2 years later.
I don't think it's premium.
All right,
what is it? Dragon Spear wants.
I'm just going to give it to you. It's Firefly.
Oh, it's Firefly. Wait, really? Let me see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, I never. Okay, Dragon Spear knew that. See, I didn't watch much Firefly. Is the problem? I saw some of it after the fact. But
well, there wasn't much to watch.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And because it's Joss Whedon, it's a little complicated to actually watch now too, right?
Yeah.
Given
it's true.
He's a complicated creator.
That is Firefly, but it's appropriate for this campaign. However, I think in terms of the setup, I love it a little bit. So that's true. How are you, Johnny? How's life in the universe?
Absolutely. I'm not quite recovered from last week's episode of The Last of Us. And because of that, I've been trying to distract myself, and then I discovered Nothing Forever, and now I'm not quite recovered from AI generated Seinfeld episodes. So I'm good.
A different
actually.
Kind of not recovered though, right? I mean, it's a different kind.
No. Long story short, I'm completely impressed with what they're doing with The Last of Us, and those guys at Nothing Forever are doing amazing work in creating absolute nonsense. So I'm good. I'm really good this week, except for the cold, which I would prefer to be in California with a little bit warmer weather, even though there's no rain now. Yeah. But it's been nice in Virginia, and I guess since we're playing two sets of characters tonight, I've got to go ahead and rediscover Beatrice's voice, because I can't remember, it was November or December the last time that we actually played the fantasy characters.
I think it might have been earlier than that. I think we played it in October, might have been the last time with the fantasy ones, because we played those first, and we played them for a couple of sessions, and then went into the science fiction folks, and that's what we've stayed with. So until now, almost now. October.
I mean, I that was the character that I was really fascinated with, ready to start with, and absolutely no idea anything about that character. I'm going through my notes, it's like I've got to rediscover who this beholder is now. So
Yeah.
it's going to be quite interesting tonight for sure. And so I'm starting off with Titus, who is a second level, unless we leveled after that last fight. Second level Zek engineer, who's picking a fight with big robots or big armored guys.
Yes, very much picking a fight, which is going to be it's going to be interesting to see how that all goes. Although one of them is already dealt with, so that's nice. But we will see what happens with the other one. We'll talk more about that during our recap. But always a pleasure to have Johnny with us. Also a pleasure as we move across directly across the row to Toya Kristen Finley. Toya, it's good to see you. How is life and the universe with you, and all that kind of good stuff? I feel like it's only last week that we've seen each other, which I think is the case. How are you doing? How's life, and who are you playing today in these characters?
Well, the dogs sound like they're up to no good upstairs. So
excellent. I'm glad to hear it.
Let's see. We've got Dr. Naomi Winterfield, and then we have Nals Darkly. Oh, and also Johnny, I believe Beatrice's voice went a little something like this. I'm sure it was like this, a little bit gruff and bewildered.
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah, that's about right.
This reminds me when we switched characters over in the last show. So, Toya, please, Beatrice is all yours. Enjoy.
Yeah. It's interesting. Johnny brought up The Last of Us because I have probably controversial feelings about that franchise. But the third episode was just peak television and one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. And I don't throw out high praise like that. In fact, you could watch that episode and know not a thing about The Last of Us. So it's just a magnificent short story.
Nice. Wow. That is high praise. So we have got the two characters. We have got a story and narrative expert telling you something about a amazing story and narrative from an episode. So that's good news. And hey, listen, if complicated feeling aside, if The Last of Us wants to sponsor us, or if specifically just Pedro Pascal wants to sponsor this channel, I would be happy to have. How'd you like to be Pedro Pascal, by the way?
Daddy? Yes,
I mean, right, like the guy, The Last of Us, and oh, by the way, is The Mandalorian. Like just at the moment I'm talking about. Not even forget the rest of his career. Just do it right now. That's all he's doing it. So. Yeah, the horror zombie thing is my problem too, Dragon. It does its job. It freaks me out. I don't like things that scare me.
So zombies, okay. I'm bored of zombies. I don't find them scary. I don't find horror scary, although I really like horror because horror is more about the atmosphere than just like jump scares and whatever. Okay, but here's my controversial thing about The Last of Us.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of Ellie. Because she's basically a couple of tropes that they threw together and she never really meshes as a character to me. And I like her even less in the second game. So also The Last of Us 1 has a huge world building plot hole in it, but I will get into that.
That's interesting. Well, I don't know how I'm gonna have to figure out a way to.
I made Johnny mad. He raised his hand.
No. I actually I want to hear this. Greg, can we get a little aside at some point? Like maybe bring her back on and have you do the interview and let's have this conversation going on. I would love to hear like some deconstruction on The Last of Us because I would love to understand some of the things that are really broken about it because I enjoy the game and I'm enjoying the TV series, but I would love to understand sort of like what it's doing really wrong because I've seen some things, but like nothing that stands out to me as major. So
the last time we had a discussion of this nature, it was me refereeing between Johnny and Eric Vulgaris about The Last Jedi. And Johnny and I remain right about that, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But
always seems these topics of contention revolve around the last of things, the Last Jedi.
That's true.
The Last of Us.
That's true.
Yeah.
The Last Samurai probably we could destroy for many reasons.
God, don't even start. Let's
go.
Move on.
Yeah, please move on from that.
Moving on from that, always a pleasure to have Toya with us. Also a pleasure, of course, to have the, speaking of someone who's an expert in story and narrative, the amazing Cat Rambo, who is with us as well. Wait, hold on a second. What is this? Heads up, be on the lookout for a fast food related delivery Monday. Then I'll deliver this one. What, Dragon? Oh, man. I don't want to hear about these fast food deliveries. I'm afraid people are going to be just piling at my door. No, thank you very much, Dragon Spear. Also, thank you for the cheer. And just before I come back to Kat, sorry, Kat, I do want to just remind everyone about the cheer. Remember, in this campaign, anything that you cheer officially with Twitch using bits will go to the players. We had 2114, 2114. I can use numbers in our last session, and so we're going to roll that in with this and with the one that we do in 2 weeks. So that is the first cheer of the night to the players, followed up by one more, also by Dragon Spear. So 200. Thank you, Dragon Spear, so much. I appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
So 200 bits for the evening, and now I'll come back to Kat. Kat, as always, a great pleasure to see you. I don't know, Kat, do you have any like burning opinions about current franchises that have major story narrative problems that you want to get us in trouble with?
Seen The Last of Us yet.
Okay.
So sadly, no. But I do have someone who wants to say hello. So there she is.
Hello, Taco.
Hey, hi, kitty.
Hi, Taku.
I feel like Taco. I seem to remember you showing Taco off when she was just a kitten, Cat. I think, and so whenever you say, I'm just kind of like, that's not Taco. That's a full-grown adult cat. And I'm like, oh wait, time has passed.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
how are you, Cat? Otherwise, and who are
I'm
you
doing
playing?
well. Staying warm.
That's good.
Keeping busy. And tonight I am running 2 characters like everyone else. I'm running a cache specialist, Ziriel Felzahali of the Kaemur, whose darknet name is Jewel5 ampersand. And then I am running Fob the Lizard.
Fob the Lizard, and we'll have a chance to see both of them, hopefully. Yeah, no, actually, you will, almost certainly, unless things go way off the rails. You will have a chance to see both of them tonight. Thank you, Kat. Always a pleasure to have you with us. And last but certainly not least, Zach. Zach Clay has returned once again, and has returned to regale you with his hot take opinions about how truly Dungeons and Dragons is the greatest, most superior game to all other games, including Expedition. No, that's absolutely not what I would say.
No.
Absolutely not. No, I'm just kidding. Zach, how you doing? How's life in the universe with you? And whom are you playing? Which characters are you playing tonight?
As someone who literally makes most of his current living off of playing D&D, it is certainly not the best RPG, although I'm usually not the kind of person to call something the best of a thing because they're all so different. I just introduced to my high school club students just yesterday Honey Heist, which is amazing and
Honey
awesome,
Heist.
and they were so excited. So yes, no, I am excited for a future full of varied tabletop games of the sort. And tonight I will be continuing as Dr. Keldon Jaraxus, a Dendus cybermancer who is currently always recording everything that's going on.
He's always
and
recording.
Always recording, always editing in post. And my second character is Beauty, who is known by some members of this chat and community, was very nicely nicknamed Cryptozoologist Lollipop Girl. And I would say that's pretty accurate. So I'm excited to get some of that going on as well.
Very awesome, and I'm excited to see that also. And while I just pull up, make sure that I have all my stats ready here. Okay, where's my notes? There. Okay. While I get this all ready, I should mention, by the way, that for those just arriving, chat, again, this campaign's conceit is that it's kind of a mashup of fantasy Dungeons and Dragons and the more space-based, the completely space-based Esper Genesis. And so the party began by playing their fantasy characters, and I'll have to remind everybody what happened with them when we get back to that adventure. But then they have, for the last few sessions, they have been playing their Esper Genesis characters and have now crash landed on this planet. But the groups are headed towards each other, and there will be a meeting of the minds, somewhat literally here, in the pretty near future. In fact, you'll have a chance to see both groups of characters, I suspect, tonight. So let's talk about what happened in our last session. As I fire up some music here, let's go with I think we have it as Space Explorer, so we'll go with that.
Yes.
there
The
we
session by session
Perfect.
menu ordering of the music.
Exactly. It always does
waited
these
every
other
time.
things. In our last session, the party, the crew of the Sunrider, which had crash landed previously on this mysterious, strange planet from which a beacon has been sounding, managed to make their way out of the ship through a crystalline forest and into a regular forest, with only the minor problem of, what was a dragon that was heading towards their ship, the Sunrider, when they actually entered the forest. Once inside the forest, they dealt with a set of creatures, which were analyzed to be a kind of creature known as a SETI snapper, a creature which basically uses pack tactics and so on to take people down after seeming impossibly cute. But the party was not taken down by the SETI snappers. They were able to drive them off, and after some moments rest, the evening of rest, they proceeded forward into the forest, whereupon they heard the sound of laser fire. And coming forward, they ended up finding themselves facing 3 strange creatures. One of them was this. Let me increase the size here. One of them was this creature, a strange, robotic, tall creature which had an autocannon and other very nasty weapons, and was using them in pursuing this figure, a man with blue eyes and white hair and beard, with glowing blue energy magic of some kind that he was using to try to combat this thing. The party was unwilling to let this man die, even though the person, he was telling them, run, you don't belong here, get out of here, type of thing. They resolutely ignored him, as heroes would generally do, and with Dr. Jaraxxus in full record mode, went after these 2 creatures. They had been heavily damaged already, presumably in a fight against this man, which made it a little easier, but not a whole lot. But there were some dramatic moments, including Ziriel leaping onto the back of one of these creatures and essentially hardwiring it to short out, and then avoiding, pretty serious damage by leaping off it instead. We had Titus firing through the legs of the aforementioned man, firing at these things while they were there. And we had multiple examples of, I believe it was Dr. Jaraxxus firing several beams at the creatures, which also had an effect. But what the party discovered as the first one of these crashed down, is that it was not actually a robot, but in fact a suit of armor, and that there was someone who had been wearing it, of course now dead, that was inside this armor. And so as they turned to face the second of these creatures, that themselves and this other blue energy wielding creature, this man here, they realize that they have a little bit of knowledge they might not have had before about what these creatures are about, although they have no idea why they are attacking this particular person. And so I'm going to put us back into combat. We are going to resume our initiative at the top of the round, I believe. So I'm going to fire this up here with some
I have a quick question.
And I'm going to answer a question. Yes.
In the green room, we were discussing whether or not, based on your description last time, if the dead person within this large suit of armor is dead by the damage that we have dealt to them, or if we get the sense that this is actually like some sort of a zombie piloting the suit.
So you obviously you're not going to have a chance to really inspect that until the battle is over, but I can tell you just from the quick look-see, the face of this pilot does not look drawn or pallid or, multiple
Undeadish.
scratches and undeadish. Yeah, it does not look like that. It looks more that the person was killed from injuries as a result of the battle that was just fought. So
Got
you
it.
don't,
Okay.
but again, that's only a very cursory examination, but it definitely does not look like this is a zombified pilot. Unless it's a mimic pretending to be, I'm just kidding. That's not
I
gonna
was
happen.
right, guys.
I knew it.
Mimic pretending to be. That's what I said.
That's
Not
why
at all.
Now you hear the violence inherent in the system. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the very top of the round, the first one to go is the blue energy wielding man, and he looks back. Now, just sort of to set the scene tactically, I believe Titus is, I think, right next to or behind, like directly behind this man. We have Ziriel, who is just, leaped free and is just on the ground, but very close to the downed armor suit and the one that's currently standing. We have Dr. Jaraxxus, who is, I think, closing in on Titus, if I'm not mistaken. I think is where Dr. Jaraxxus was moving, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think I had moved away because the last turn I had taken just before I then had to disappear was Jaraxxus was taking some shots off, and because his sprite beam has such a long range, I was backing up
that's right.
the path a
That's
bit,
right. That's
and
right.
then
Yes.
looking through the camcorder kind
That's
of
right. That's right. And then the last thing tactically was Dr. Winterfield. I'm trying to remember if you were a little bit behind the rest of the group as well, I think.
I've taken cover behind a rock. at the
That's
moment.
right. Okay. So now that we're clear on those positions, so he is going to look back sort of at you, Titus, since you're right behind him, and he's going to say, "You're brave, but this isn't your fight." And he turns around, and then these bolts again streak out at the creature. And let's see. Also, hi, Mrs. Dunsel, the giver of the hot chocolate. The hot chocolate has been distributed to all family members, Mrs. Dunsel, and it was all greatly appreciated, so you know. Okay, let's see. So So they strike into this thing, and again, great power, sort of just backwards. By the way, I believe the remaining one, Jaraxxus, is the one that's marked by you, I believe, still. I think that's the standing one is marked by you. So,
yeah.
So anyway, it does that. And then Darmuth sort of stands his ground, panting heavily. And Titus, you also, when these bolts go off, you can... Your skin almost tingles a little bit from this field of magic around this guy as he's standing in front of you. Despite the fact that he's clearly hurt, there's a lot of power coming from this person, which is appropriate because it's your turn, Titus.
Did you say his name was Darmuth? Did I just hear that correctly?
Yes. I may have actually accidentally said his name, but he was going to tell it to you anyway.
Right, totally.
Yes. At the moment, he's just this guy, who may or may not be called Darmuth.
And then, of course, Titus, responding to this guy going, "Ah!" And then firing a laser blast right through his legs again.
Okay. Excellent.
And let's see what my last roll was. I don't remember what my last roll was. Okay, let's do this. How about a 21? Does a 21 hit?
A 21 will absolutely hit, yes.
Let me find out what my damage was on that again. I don't remember right now. 46. That's 3.
Oh,
Let's see what we got.
plus 34.
What?
Wait, hold on.
Wow. Level 2 characters. It really, I tell you what, chat, power creep is really...
Yeah.
really
We'll call that a
problem.
15 then.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. No, sorry. 17 because it's 14 plus 17 or plus
Okay.
3. 14 plus 3.
All right. Well, this thing goes, poof, again, just staggers back again as these things slam into it, as the bolts slam into it. Are you going to stay where you're, Titus, or moving?
Is there anything else going on as this is happening? This is the only other combatant. We're not hearing any other type of other distress of any kind.
Exactly. Although the combat's pretty loud to hear anything else, but no, you don't hear any distress at the moment, other than the person in front of you telling you to leave.
Then Titus is going to hold his ground.
Okay, then we're going to come down to Ziriel. Dr. Jaraxxus will be on deck. Ziriel, you're up next. Ziriel, you were sitting, though, at 2 out of 9 hit points, I believe, so be aware your health situation is not optimal.
So where is the closest spot to hide?
There are a number of things actually off to the side of either path that you could technically jump behind. Not very high. There's a couple of boulders and scrub brush, but for Ziriel, probably should be manageable, I think.
Well, luckily for me, my class allows me to shoot and then hide.
Outstanding. Let's see that
I
happen
will-
then.
Do that.
All right. Waits to see the result.
Oh, I'm trying to do it in chat as always.
Oh,
and
the
recognizing-
classic. Hmm.
How about a 20?
That will
Okay.
definitely hit.
Okay. It's
But some party decided they wanted this combat over. That's how I'm reading this.
It's a light pistol.
Okay.
Is that 1d6?
That's what it says on. I have one too, and it's 1d6.
1d6? I think that sounds right. So yeah, 1d6
And
plus.
do I get my dex
Yes.
modifier on that for damage? Excellent.
Yes, you do.
Let's try 7 points.
That's very nice. Okay, so again, bam, just these shots, because again, chat, it's all happening pretty much within this 6-second span, right? So it's just bam, 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 right? Like as this thing is staggering backwards from a series of blows. And then, Zero, you are immediately hiding therein.
Oh, so fast. Just another one of these, just like take a step and just melt
Yep.
into the brush. It's
Absolutely.
Like, where'd you go?
So Zeriel has done so, which leads us to Dr. Jaraxxus, as this thing has been multiple times hit and staggered, although it has not fallen over or prone or anything, but it's been hit a lot.
And okay, yeah, and it does look pretty damaged. So we see that there's one person. There was a person in the last one.
Correct.
I think, his friends are damaging this thing to all hell. Does this big mech suit thing look like it's still gonna go for a fight, or does it actually look like it's gonna turn around and flee? Does it still seem like a threat at the moment?
Well, I would say it still looks like a threat, although it's hard to tell. This is all happening so quickly. It has not made a move to turn yet, no.
Right. Okay. All right. I am going to, I'll step forward so that I'm within 60 feet of it, at least. And Dr. Jaraxxus will expend a Esper power to cast Command, which functions like its 5e version. And the one-word command he will put out is akin to, I think there's one that's built into the spell. It gives a few examples, and there's one called Grovel, I think. Let me just take a quick look.
Okay.
That basically makes it not do anything. Yeah, it says
Yeah, wording. will
some
be
typical
important.
commands. I will. Wow. And is this robot holding anything?
Yes, it has. Well, so it has this autocannon, and it also has what is essentially like it basically it can slam. So it has its autocannon, and then it
Yeah.
has these. It can sort of body slam. Although what it's been doing is firing most of the time.
Okay.
So does not have like a melee weapon per se, if that's what you're asking. But because the
Okay.
autocannon has been shoulder mounted.
So Dr. Jaraxxus will run forward and, using the microphone in his sim unit, will shout out the word "Halt!" and is
Okay.
going to attempt to command the pilot inside to halt. So it would be a wisdom saving throw against 13.
All right.
I'll use the slot for that.
1 second. Something's not. Sorry.
All good.
Trying to print something that's
Yes, Echo's very right here. I forgot 2 additional words. Criminal scum!
criminal scum.
Halt, criminal scum! Yes. Technically, because it's one word, the halt is the one word, but Echo, just for you, I will add criminal scum as an addendum after the spell has been cast.
So let's see. And wisdom saving throw from this thing.
Yeah.
Let's see how we do. Okay. Apparently, this
Yeah.
one is not designed to halt, or at least does not feel like doing so. It does not. It makes it safe. So
Okay.
you can see that it doesn't actually. Instead, it sort of does this like and looks back at you. Although it has multiple people that it could theoretically be upset at the moment. But it does not, unfortunately, bow to your will.
And I turn the camera on myself, and I say, "Obviously, I was telling myself to halt. See, here I am, stopped, and now
I have halted.
I turn the camera back. I have no bonus action. I suppose we'll say I'm within 60 feet of it, because he's still trying to stay as distant as possible, and that's my turn.
Okay. So on the striker's turn, he is going to. It is going to make 2 attacks. The first is it is going to fire its autocannon, and currently it's got, let's see, 3 possible targets. I think what he's probably going to do is he's probably going to fire at you first, Jiraxis, for this.
All right.
So we are looking at a 21 to hit.
Certainly not.
Really?
Yes. No. Yes.
Okay. And that is going to do 7 points of damage,
Okay.
specifically radiant damage, by the way.
Okay.
So you are struck by that. Then, so it does this with the autocannon on the shoulder, and then comes up, basically walks right up and swings down at the man standing in front of Titus. And it's going to swing with its metal fist. And I don't actually know if that might actually miss. Let's see. No, it does not miss. So it strikes it and does so solidly. And you can see him go flying back. He does not go prone, but he definitely you can hear the crunch above you. And actually, as he goes flying back, so he's literally like slammed backward a few feet. So there's this moment where you have this confused sort of impression of like, robe and blue energy, and then all of a sudden you find yourself, Titus, just like facing this armor thing that is staring down at you angrily. Well, you don't know if it's angry, you can't see it, but it's clearly staring down at you with intention, let's put it that way. And so that's going to lead us to Dr. Winterfield, who is next. What would you like to do, Dr. Winterfield?
And how many feet away is Dr. Winterfield from this beast?
With the boulder, I would say that you're probably about 50 feet behind the action, I would say. I think that's where the boulder is, towards the rear of the combat.
Okay.
You're not far away from that fissure, remember, that was behind you.
So am I within 60 feet then?
You are, yeah, 50 feet. So you're within 60 feet.
All right.
Indeed.
Well, you said from behind the action, so I wasn't sure if that
Oh,
was
no,
an extra
I meant where the
amount of
melee is
footage.
happening. Yeah, no, I meant where the melee is happening.
If I am within 60 feet, then I am going to try Synaptic Recoil.
Which has been used to great success so far. This is a wisdom saving? What saving throw is this for me?
Yes, it is a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 3d6 psychic damage and must immediately use its reaction, if available, to move as far as its speed allows away from you.
Did not succeed, I'm here to tell you. So go ahead and
that's
roll
too
your
bad.
3d6. It's unfortunate for it.
All right, 3d6. How about a 14?
That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Okay, this thing, again, this sort of energy hits it. Now, its reaction means it must move away from you. That means backwards. What that's going to do is the man who's been knocked backwards is not going to be able to react to this. But Titus, you could theoretically get an attack of opportunity on this if you were to try a melee attack on this as it left. Can't really ranged attack an opportunity attack here, but if you have something melee, if you wanted to drop your weapon and from Hell's Heart, I stab at thee on the ankle or something. You could do that if you wish. But you're the only one in current melee range.
From Hell's whatever, I swing at the
Okay.
and I grab my energy staff
Right.
and I take it and I swing at it.
Outstanding. Home run swingish. Let's see if you hit it.
All right. All right. Hold on a second. I mean, because I wasn't really thinking about this at all, so I wasn't really prepared. I also don't have anything that helps with this, so we're just gonna roll. I'm a terrible
That's sadly, yeah, the 4.
T-ball is just not my thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunately not going to work, so you do miss it. But, I mean, no big deal. All that does is storm away from you at top speed. And that's going to bring us up to the top of the round. And the sort of panting heavily, the man behind you sort of kind of looks down at you, Titus, and then says, yells out to no one in particular, "Is anybody hurt?" Well?
I think we all
Confused, astonished, but not
Yes.
hurt. How are you?
He says, more about the same. And he looks at you. Now, Ziriel, he probably might hear you say, yes, we're hurt, but he hears it like, what is that? There's a shadow speaking. I can't.
I'll stick my head out of the bush because I sense healing in the offing. So I'll
Okay, so he says, all right. And he grabs something from his cloak and he tosses it to you, Ziriel. And I'll talk
Grenade.
about what that is in a minute.
Oh.
Then he turns to you, Dr. Draxus, and he puts out his hand, and his hand glows blue. And you feel slightly better than you did. 3 hit points are restored to you. And thank you very much, Hilnis, for the 68 months of support. Thank you for the sub, Hilnis. I appreciate it. So he does that, and he says, I'm sorry I can't do more, but it's been quite a fight. If you're going to be stupid enough to stay here, then just don't get yourselves killed. And he turns around and faces up and the creature and says, well, why don't you finish your mission, you tin can? And he sort of steps forward again. He does not act mechanically because he's used up his turn. But he is going to stand there dramatically. And Titus, you were up next. This creature does look very, the robotic armor thing looks very, very damaged. Not destroyed yet, but very damaged.
And it is otherwise trying to escape.
Well, it ran directly away after something hit it, but it's done that multiple times before and then turned around and come back. So you don't know. Unclear. It might be, but you're not going to know till its turn.
How far of it is it? How far? Sorry. What's the range? Sorry.
What's the range?
I'm having trouble speaking right now.
It is, since you were right on top of it, it's probably about 30 feet because it moved its speed away, its walking speed. Hey, Optic.
Okay. All right. I'm going to use a prime talent here, or
Okay.
technique, or whatever.
Okay.
And I'm going to save my last slot because I only have 1 left, I think. And I'm going to use Electric Surge. So it reads as following. You launch a spike of surging electricity toward a target within range. Its range is 60 feet. Make a ranged forging attack. The target gains no benefit from cover from this attack. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 and loses their cover until the start of the next turn.
Okay.
So I'm using a much more minimal attack in large part to disable or down this thing without killing it.
Okay.
So that's my goal here. I'm trying to eliminate it. We definitely want to figure out what's going on here and talk to this, or interrogate this thing or whatever. So that's the plan.
Okay. Let's have you make your ranged forging attack then.
How about 13?
A 13 is not quite going to do it, unfortunately. Does
right.
not hit it. But good conceptually. Do you want to stay where you are, Titus, or move anywhere?
I am going to stay where I am.
Okay, that's going to lead us to Ziriel next. So, Ziriel, this packet that was tossed to you, it seems to be, from what you can tell, it looks almost like a large leaf, that is wrapped around something squishy. You don't know what's inside the leaf. But you could, if you wish, as a bonus action, unwrap the leaf. If you wanted to
I
see what
do
there was.
wish to, as a bonus action, unwrap the leaf.
It looks like some kind of fairly pungent, it almost looks like a kind of rice almost, but it has this sort of strange, not awful, but just a sort of strange, unfamiliar odor. And you can, as you can smell it, it's one of those like smelling salt, almost like, whoa, kind of thing inside this leaf.
Well, I'm going to sniff it dubiously and then put it back in my pocket and use one of the med kits that I have.
Okay, never mind this stuff. Right, okay, you can do that. Let's see. So are we talking, we're talking one of the healing potions, right? Not because a med kit is a stabilizing thing, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, I see written on my character sheet, it says med kit 10 uses. If
Right, that's
not-
to stabilize. That's to stabilize
Okay.
someone without having to make a roll. So
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
take the leaf back out.
I'll take the rice back out and I'll taste a little of it.
It has. I mean, it tastes spicy, but not unpleasant. And as you taste it, you begin to feel slightly better.
Oh, well, I'll just wolf that puppy down then.
It does in fact heal. Hello, Wolfer Squad. It does in fact heal 4 points
Nice.
of damage, Zuriel. So you're up
I'm
to
up to
6 now.
6.
Yep. And that was your bonus action, so you can take a regular action if you wish.
So he's not attacking this big metal dude? He's
Not yet.
waiting-
He's moving away, but you don't know for how long. He just started moving away last turn.
And there are some that are down?
One is
Correct.
down. Yep.
I'm going
with
to go over to the one that's down and start examining it for objects that might need to be liberated.
Okay. When you get over there, make an investigation check for me, please. Yeah, Optic, if you go over to the, if you do type in ! Gray Shade, you'll be able to go over and pre-order said book that you're mentioning. And you'd be able to pre-order a copy of that, which is coming out later this year. And thank you for considering it. No, it's Gray, but Arudnell just posted it too.
A big 9.
Yeah, you don't see yet. I mean, one thing that you're dealing with is that it's, still kind of sparking. You might have been somewhat responsible for that. There's that. The one thing that you can say is you can see that the man that's in, or it looks like a human, has what looks like these two, for want of a better term, these two nodes almost in his neck, and there are wires out of them that are attached to the suit that like run down into the suit itself.
And he's dead?
Yes.
Or he's alive?
No,
Okay.
he's quite dead. I mean, you hope so, because this certainly should have killed people. Yes.
Well, my character would immediately start poking at those lumps. But
Okay. One thing you can tell is that they are wired, and it almost look like kind of jacks that you've seen before, Zuriel, like to jack in and out of the neural nets of the dark web and so on. The thing is, though, that it feels like sort of strangely, like it works, it's functional, but it's older technology. These days you don't usually hack in by jacking in directly into your, not now. I mean, that was old school, but now it's done in a different way. Yet this seems to be quite functional and like newly installed. It doesn't look like it's old, ancient, but it definitely is technology that feels very much like you just walked into, 50 years ago, and you're looking at technology here.
well, I'm taking those implants.
Okay. Oh, you'll have to disconnect it first, because these are the you have to.
I'm
You're gonna start
disconnecting.
them. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That'll take a little while. As you're starting to disconnect them, let's talk to Dr. Duraxis. What would you like to do, Dr. Duraxis, as this thing is moving away for the present?
I would like to have Dr. Duraxis shoot his sprite beam at maybe the leg, or probably the leg of this fleeing automaton, so that hopefully I don't kill whoever's inside, but I
Okay.
do stop the machine
Okay.
from continue.
Go ahead and make that happen. Let's see that attack.
All right. Here we go. That's a 20. Yes.
That will absolutely hit.
Okay.
That
And
wasn't natural, was it?
that's-
No, it was
No, certainly not. That's a 7 points of force damage.
Okay. So, and also, don't you have a hunter's mark on that? Or, sorry, the
Oh,
equivalent.
thank you. Yes, it's a hex equivalent, which I believe is a d6. Thanks for reminding me. So another 4.
So, good news, bad news. The good
Okay.
news is that defeats the creature. The bad news is a little much.
Oh.
The mark sort of, so it like, staggers forward and slams forward. And actually, as it hits the ground and it begins to spark, immediately the man of the blue energy kind of nods in your direction and then runs over looking, for someone who's hurt and looks older, extremely spry, like runs over to it and looks down at this creature and then sort of says and looks to all of you and says, if you want to get anything from him, you better hurry. I don't know whether he's going to survive this. And the helmet is popped off, so you can see this is actually, and actually you should have said she. It looks possibly like a female human, maybe, but not clear. But in any case, down on the ground, and you can see sparking around the device, around the armor.
Is it possible for Dr. Winterfield to get a quick scan in?
If you can get over to it, it depends. We're out of initiative now, so you could actually run over and do that if you wished.
Okay, so Dr. Winterfield is going to sprint over as fast as she can to get a quick scan while this pilot is still alive.
Okay. When you get over to, and go ahead. Actually, I'll ask what each one of you is doing. So Dr. Winterfield's going to go over. What are you doing, Titus? And then I'm going to ask for Zerial and Draxus too.
So Titus is going to do the exact same thing, but Titus is coming in with a different intent.
Okay.
Titus has the prime talent ability Stabilize.
Okay.
And I would like to stabilize this female creature of some kind that we don't know yet.
Right.
Specifically, though, what I'd like to know is, in making that happen, as Dr. Winterfield is going to have to do that, do we know whether this armor? I mean, because we're all relatively technically inclined, I guess, if you want to say we're familiar with this technology. Is this thing going to explode or cause any other type of damage to the person? Or are we going to be able to stabilize her and then figure this out?
Okay, so let's have you run over there. I'll answer that question in just a moment. Zerial, you're still working on trying to get this thing removed from the other pilot. And then that leaves us with Draxus. What about you? What are you doing while this stuff is happening?
Shaky amateur documentary style, Dr. Draxus is running up towards the scene with his camera. He'd probably just point it right at this stuff, and already too many cooks in the kitchen, so he's going to let his friends do their best to try to stabilize the situation.
Okay. When so Dr. Winterfield starts to scan as Titus gets up there, and Dr. Draxus is filming this while Zerial works on the other one. And when you get up to it, you can see that the man is bending down, sort of on one knee and looking. And of course, the woman is her head is sort of to one side of this thing because she's face down, and her head is to one side. And he says, you can see that he's sort of whispering something, and as you come up, you can hear that he's saying, "There's no reason to die for this. Tell us what we want to know. We can save you. We can help you." And she says, "There's no help for you. Aoth will find you, and you will be burned in his light." And then jerks her neck back, like jerks it to the left, and this massive spark goes into her head, and the body literally convulses and then lies still. And the man sort of looks up at all of you. Titus, like as you got there, she was doing this like, I will talk to Dr. Winterfield about what you got in that scan in a minute. But he sort of looks up and it's about the way that they've acted. I shouldn't have been surprised. That's the problem with dealing with a cult. And then he sort of looks at all of you and says, "Who are you? You don't belong in this place. Why are you here? By the way, as he's looking up at you, Jaraxxus and Winterfield and Titus, his blue eyes are almost fathomless. Like they have this strange, intense coloration. In fact, I would, if anyone's seen, I'm sure many of this crowd will have seen the 80s Dune, right? 80s movie Dune with when you have the spice, right? That deep kind of intense blue that is sort of fathomless. But he certainly does not in any way look drugged or tranced out or anything. But you can see that his eyes are just kind of open and he's gazing at the three of you standing above him.
You are indeed correct. We don't belong here. We were forced onto your planet.
Forced? Wait, are you... And he pauses, says, you're from the ship. The ship.
Yes.
I saw it. Well, this is... And then he pauses. He says, I'm sorry. I am Darmuth Rend. And he stands up and he kind of bows and he says, you mustn't misunderstand me. I'm grateful for your help. But I would not have wished you to risk your lives on my account. These creatures are, at the moment, a fact of life for us, I'm afraid. You came from the ship. And that one, too, and points over at Ziriel, who's like, hurriedly trying to work on these, these things. Ziriel, I'm going to come back to you in a moment about that. And he says to the three of you, you came from the ship that crashed up above on that plateau. Where did you come from? From where outside of this place?
Quite some distance. I don't think it's much important now.
What? Everything is important. He says, it is just as it was, hundreds of years ago. I imagine you are the same types. Yes. And he kind of walks around the three of you, not in a threatening way, but kind of like as if he's looking at museum pieces, trying to size you all up.
This has happened before?
Yes. It has. Centuries ago. Well, I'll tell you about it in a moment, but first I imagine you'll want to know something about these things, or specifically that. And, I have a suspicion you're not going to find much, he says to you, Ziriel, as you've successfully now managed to disconnect one of these things. But what the disconnection of this sort of node has demonstrated to you is that these creatures, these humans, are definitely wired into these machines in some way. You're not 100% sure that it would be easy for the human to have gotten out once it was in here. In fact, you don't think that there's an obvious, open up the suit and get out of it, system here. These things look to have been, for want of a better term, grafted into these suits. And so you can't really take it with you unless you, do some very unfortunate stuff with the body, I'm afraid. But, which I guess you could do. You could definitely take a sample of the wiring. You certainly could do that. But these things are fully embedded in the necks of these creatures.
But Ziriel has no compunctions about cutting these out.
Okay. Then that's fine. You can do that since they're kind of deep, so it'll take a little bit. But you can definitely do that. And thank you, JLC, for the sub. 20 months. Keep being awesome. Same to you, JLC. I hope you're doing well. And also hi to Drew, who just showed up. Good to see you, Drew. So, he kind of stands over. Darmuth comes over and looks down at Ziriel, and he says, do you think you're going to learn anything from that, really?
You never know what you can learn, and this seems sort of odd to me that this seems... I don't know, this is old school stuff. I don't know. Do you know where this is coming from?
That's a question that I have spent many years contemplating, as it happens. And now I've found that my theories were at least partially true. He kind of...
We share them.
And so he stands up and he kind of sniffs the air, and he says, "First of all, are any of you badly hurt?"
I'm still somewhat hurt.
He says, "Well, I'm glad that you finally ate those things that I gave you. Did you think I was going to poison you in battle?"
You know, there are food allergies. You know, how could you not know that you know,
It's true. I myself am gluten free. No, he doesn't say that.
that's it.
He
That's it.
he nods and he says, "Well, you're wise at least to be suspicious. It's true. Yes, I think I have one more of these." And he kind of reaches in his cloak and he says, and he pulls one out, another one of those wrapped leaves, and he says, "But unfortunately, it's all I have. I'm a little tired, you see. It's been a bit of a day." And you can see that his robe does have rips in it. He does look tired. He has plenty of energy, but you can see that this is definitely not him at full strength. So he hands over the packet, probably the person who needs it the most, which is, I guess, technically Dr. Jirak. Well, Zeriel's 6 and 9, Drax is 11 to 15. It's up to you which way
I would say when he first mentions if someone's hurt, Dr. Draxus would kind of, a light bulb would go off and he would cast his Innervate on himself again to give himself a little shield, and he'll say, I'll be fine, I think.
That's how many temp, Zach? 4?
Looks like 5 right now.
5, right, okay, good. Okay. All right, so then he hands that to you, Zeriel, and you can, again, have that leaf if you wish.
Okay, I will eat the leaf. Eat the thing in the leaf. I don't eat the leaf.
That is what I was going to say. The leaf is horrifically poisonous. No, it does recovers another 3 hit points this time, which is just what you need, as it turns out. Okay, and so he looks you all up and down. And he says, "All right, then." He says, "At least for a moment, we're here together. My name is Zormith Rend, as I said. I am a scholar of sorts. You might say that I am a scholar of the void. That up there," and he points up at sort of generally at the sky, presumably space partially. And he says, "For many years, I have tried to find what it is that makes our planet what it is. Why this planet is the space and time. Why Camria, of all places, for the things that have happened here to happen. And, over time, I have gained some small measure of knowledge and power. But I have been convinced that what happened to our world is not the normal course of affairs, that our world would have been different if it had not been radically changed hundreds of years ago. You see, hundreds of years ago, there was a star vessel that came down centuries before this. And, I think, if I'm sure of it, the strange forces that made that one crash are the same ones that must have brought you here, although I have no idea why. I only know that since the crashing of that ship, all of our history, from what I can tell, changed. And if you are part of a new ship to have crashed, I must assume that again our world will change for good. I wonder, then, what you intend for Camria. Are you here on a mission of conquest, of exploration, or are you here for knowledge?" And he sort of pauses.
We are here to try to survive. As I said, we were not trying to come to your world. If we receive knowledge while we are trying to go home, then that is why we are here.
We
Go ahead.
do find ourselves stranded, but I suppose if it's any provenance to you, we came here because some sort of strange signal was coming from this place, but not specifically here. In fact, we crashed, but it may have been a distress signal. We thought, I mean, I don't know if it was you, but your people or someone here needed help or something. Something
Distress?
strange.
What do you mean, distress signal? I don't understand what those words would mean.
A sound of distress, that our ship could sense through the stars.
Your ship is alive, then. Perhaps a beast like a dragon or something similar?
Speaking of that, is that dragon your friend? You know, the one yesterday, the big red one.
Ah, that's only one of a number that you might find around here. We're not that far, you know, from the Badlands.
There's
And
more.
here in the Badlands,
Okay.
there are many such creatures, yes.
Friendly.
And he sort of, his eyes sort of widen. He says, perhaps if you were another dragon, it would not likely be friendly to any other kind. Though you are strange, perhaps the dragon would find you interesting before it destroyed you utterly.
Great.
So, like when you say, "Are we here to conquer the planet?" Is it like this planet like super vulnerable to conquest or something, or like why would you ask that?
Because there have been strange doings, strange things that have happened as of late. I don't know all the details, but I feel in my bones that something is wrong. And he kind of sits down. He's suddenly sort of looking at all of you with this intensity. He suddenly just drops into like cross-legged, lotus position on the ground. Just sort of just does that. And then says, I am from a place here called Renverith. As I said, I am a scholar, and I study the void above. I was invited to attend a celebration in the neighboring realm of Camria. It was the celebration of Camria's founding, and it was considered good for the realms to come together, you might say. These realms have not always been in peace with each other, and so they thought that someone would, of some small measure of renown, would be valuable to send. I was to meet up with the head of the Royal Guard of Camria, an old friend named Merrick. But when I arrived, that was not at all what I discovered. I was in fact detained. I was bound by port security. They confiscated my belongings and threw me into a dungeon below. That was when I knew something was terribly wrong. I don't know how long I was down in that dungeon, but I do know they tried to strap me to some sort of device with blue energy. Magitech energy, probably. And then he pauses, he says, Magitech energy, by the way, is the energy which powers much of what we have on this planet. We have some use for what you might define as technology, although it seems that you have technology beyond our knowledge, but not, I think, woven together with magic as we have done here. Anyway, they tried to strap me to it, but I disallowed that suggestion. And as he says this, he, in this lotus position, he kind of like, his hand almost inadvertently clutches and you can see blue energy like tracing around his fist, And then he releases it again. He says, I was able to escape the guards and locate my staff and teleport to the realm's exit, although doing so cost me that staff, damn it all. It took me forever to make it the way I want, and it will take any number of days to reconstruct it. Anyway, since then I have been pursued and hunted by these Magitech armored soldiers you see here, these cultists. They followed me for several days. I managed to do damage to them, but as you could see for yourselves, they are quite powerful, and I was already weak. And, well, I was about to turn and make my final stand, at least hoping I could damage one of them enough to send a message. And then you all arrived and, well, got in the way. And for the first time you see this slight smile crack his features. And I must admit, it was thrilling to watch you all do your work, even though it was foolish. You could have been killed, and that is not your responsibility. If you are here, as you say, by accident, and if I accept that is true, then you would have been risking your lives needlessly. Is this what you do regularly? Throw yourselves into danger, heedless of the consequences?
We are starting to make a habit of it seems. Yes.
It's not intentional. We were working for a patron. But I have a question for you, if I might.
All right.
In the pilot's final words, she mentioned an oath and said oath will find you and you will be burned in his light. Who is this oath, and are we both in this predicament because of him?
That is an excellent question, and I wish I could give you an answer. All I knew was they used that term several times, this Aoth. It was obvious, as you can see from what just happened, that these are members of some cult, but I know nothing of their inclinations. There's very little evidence that I have, and frankly, I've been, well, you might say, out of the loop for a time. As I say, I don't know how long I was imprisoned before I was able to make my escape. I know nothing of this Aoth, but I know what these things are, and I know what a cult is. The dangers of dogmatic belief that would subjugate all to their will. That is something that must be stopped. My people had wars fought over such things before. I would not return to them now.
Jaraxxus looks over at Titus to see what Titus is making of this.
Titus is just kind of taking this all in, but hasn't taken his eyes off of the woman. There's an oily or glassy look to Titus's eyes, as if he's holding back tears, but it's not really. He's not engaged, but you just kind of see him just looking back and forth over the body, and every once in a while you'll catch him nodding at something that's being said, but otherwise just you can see the torment on his face, basically.
Dartmouth, I suppose the next step is to find a safe place. Surely more of these things will be coming to hunt you and now us down, yes? So.
And we have a stranded crew up in those mountains.
That is very right.
Is there anyone who could lend them aid?
Logical. And yes, I think there is. Something here has been happening, as I say, in Cambria, and I need to find aid myself, not only to help you. I would ask you to accompany me back to Renverith, and to get there we'll need to have some help. If you'll come with me, escort me, if you will, or you can think of it as me escorting and guiding you if you prefer. We can go to a place of relative safety. There I have contacts and connections, people who may be able to give us aid, and then we'll see what questions we can answer. Though I must warn you, it is possible that the place that I go to and the people I know may be different, since, again, I don't know how long I was captured for. But I know some things still. My power has not left me, nor my knowledge. If you four are what I think you are, then you are a return and a fulfillment of prophecy. Just as it happened 300 years ago, you and your ship will be woven into the fabric of my planet. So I will help you if you will help me as you have already.
Yes, this, as always, my only concern seems to be, I look up at the mountainside. You have a better knowledge of these dragons than we do. The other members of our crew were left behind up there, and then the dragon flew over that direction. What do you think it may have done with them? Surely it saw our ship, the creature.
His expression gets very serious, and he says, I don't know what power you have or your crew on your ship, but I know what power the dragon has. Perhaps they might have found a way to escape, but if the ship attracted the dragon's notice as it attracted mine, then He shakes his head. I cannot say, but I would not hold out much hope for your crew or the ship. Once the dragon encountered it, that would probably be the end of whatever it found. It sees this as its territory, and we as its servants. It's wrong, but it's hard to tell a dragon that it's wrong. Quick note, by the way, to Dr. Winterfield. The scan that you got was only partial, but what you were able to determine is that the pilot was indeed human, but was, for want of a better term, had been modified for who knows what, use or inclusion or something, but it had been modified because the nodes that had been placed in this human's neck were too deep, basically, for kind of what you would expect to be conventional surgery, i.e., you don't know whether it could have been removed once it was in there in the first place. Beyond that, it seemed to be a fairly biologically normal, in quotes, human that you would encounter elsewhere in the Silrain arc. Probably mid-30s, maybe, in Earth years, but that's pretty much all that you were able to determine from that temporary scan before it did whatever it did.
Bournemouth, the pilot, my device is telling me, was human, and she was modified. Do you know of any Magitech that could have taken control of her and fused her with that suit?
Forbidden technology. Things which certain people use more than others and societies. It is, however, possible, yes, that some technology could have been used, though I'm not familiar with this kind. It is, however, wholly and utterly evil to mix things in this way, to combine them together until humans are more machine than human. And he kind of shakes his head and he says, it is ignorance that brings people together, that causes them to believe that their lives are to be thrown away so they can serve another. And he kind of kicks slightly at the ground where he's still sitting, and then he stands up. And you can see as he stands up that he is looking slightly better than he did when he first sat down.
There is a thought at the back of my mind that has me curious. Forgive me if I'm too forward for asking, but you mentioned that something similar happened 300 years ago. Were you around at that time?
And so he looks at you, and his eyes. Well, make an insight check for me, actually, please, Dr. Winterfield, which is wisdom based.
So, which?
There should be. You should be able to see. Insight will be basically your wisdom bonus if you're proficient at it, and you'll have to let me know if you are on your sheet. Then you would add your proficiency bonus, which is 2, to that roll.
So my insight is 4. I am proficient.
That okay, but your wisdom, you don't have a 4 wisdom, so I bet that's combining
Okay.
it together. So just 20 plus 4 then. Yeah. You can't quite tell, except that his eyes sort of sparkle a bit, and he says, well, if I reveal all my secrets before you've revealed all of yours, how will the search for knowledge be furthered? I think
Duly
we'll
noted.
have to learn something about each other, you and I. You're already most strange for the both of us. He does not smile, but his eyes sparkle in kind of the deep blue eyes kind of sparkle a little bit.
Duly noted.
And he says, well, friends, in that case, we should make our way. It is a bit of a journey from here, but as you say, we shouldn't be caught out in the open. I don't know if there's anything else you want from these things. He kind of looks down at them and he says, but I, frankly, have no intention to sit around and look at what waste looks like. And there's a kind of like slight disgust in his voice.
I am ready.
Sounds good to me.
And he kind of looks at Dr. Winterfield and Titus.
We
Titus
won't
just
get any
gets-
answers standing here.
Sorry, what'd you say, Titus?
Titus just stands up, remains somber and silent, but occasionally keeps looking towards our newfound friend with suspicion.
He kind of, takes in all of that and nods, and he says, onward then. And since apparently I'm the first one you've met who didn't try to kill you, he says as he kind of looks over his shoulder, again with that sort of sparkling blue gaze. Welcome to the Veiled Realms. And scene. I will tell these folks that they have reached, with these characters, level 3. So let me tell them that. And it would be great for you to just talk about that, but we can't because we have to go to our fantasy characters now. And we have to set up what happens. So that is the end of Planetfall. Now, this is a little bit out of order because of a variety of reasons I won't get into. But as we go back to our fantasy characters, I do need to sort of set the scene a little bit and remind everybody what happened. So I will do a quick summary, and let me change up the music appropriately for that. Let's go with. Hold on, let me get something that's more suitable for this. Let's go with my favorite, Willow and the Light. There we go. Add to game. All right, let's stop with that. Let's put on this. There we go. Too loud. Sorry. Better. Okay. By the way, chat, welcome everybody to day 8 of Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks, sponsored by Alligator Alley Entertainment, as I am joined by the Mixed Messages, Johnny Pittman, Toya Kristen Finley, Kat Rambo, and Zach Clay, moving now from their Espergenesis characters back into their fantasy characters. The characters of Fob, Nulls, Beauty, and Beatrice, specifically, let me get the full name here, Beatrice, Enoch, Hogarth, Edith, Leopold, Devlin, Edward Roquefort III. These 4 characters were drawn together somewhat by circumstance as they were celebrating the anniversary of the founding of the place of Camria, the nation of Camria. And let me actually bring us over to where that is, so we can all see that together. So here is, excuse me, Camria. And this was the first time that people from outside the setting of Camria, non-Camrian natives, had been invited to actually come to an event like this. This great series of cities, one big city with little mini-cities, I guess you might say, all held aloft through the power of Magitech. And they came to this place known as the Bronze Square in Arkfeld, where this was being held, where this event was being held. The 4 characters, sorry, let me get rid of Darmuth, who's not here for this. The 4 characters were brought together in some sort of strange way because they had all been invited for different reasons to come to this, but they were pulled into an event that was, let us say, unexpected, I think it's fair to say. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, as the ceremony was supposed to begin, or was about to begin, the party had been asked by someone a person who identified herself as Elu Whisperwind to help her in finding these strange Magitech devices which had been planted in the area surrounding the event. The party went around and managed to discover some of these items using a small bronze medallion which was embedded with a smoky-colored gemstone. And using this, the party was able to track down those devices. These devices had been creating some strange entranced effect on some of the commoners who were around nearby, and when the party was able to disable some of them, the people kind of like came out of whatever the heck this trance ultimately was as they deactivated this. After dealing with this task, the appearance of what was later described as Illifor, the Primarch's Grand Magus, arrived to give an opening speech. And she was accompanied by someone who, because I think it's a really awesome picture, I'm going to put on stream for people. So let me pop that up here. Accompanied by guards. And look in there, go into this, and then down here, and then this thing. Accompanied by guards that looked like this. Like I said, I thought that looked pretty awesome. This is on stream, by the way, folks can see.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
So this was the creature. These were the creatures that accompanied this Magus. And Illifor went into this sort of long discussion and study about description of the creation of the realm and why Camria is so amazing and blah 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 blah. And then towards the end of the speech, the tone of it all changed. And she said towards the end of it that the realm was, when founded, in turmoil. Now we face that turmoil once again. As the Primarch seeks to bring order to Camria, our people have become rife with dissenters and traitors. In honor of our Primarch's greatness, they shall be made to answer. And two more of these figures that you see wearing this, looking like Darth Revan, yes, exactly, Drew, brought on stage a human male who was wearing tattered garments. As the Magus here said that it was time to make an example, Elu Whisperwind shouted out no at the same time as the Magus aimed her metal scepter and engulfed this human in a wave of fire, basically burning him utterly. The crowd screamed and erupted into chaos, and then she disappeared. And the rest of the party itself was trying to make its way out of the place. They basically fought a bunch of these cultists. They defeated them and did so just in time for Elu to rush to the smoldering body on stage. Of course, it was far too late to help. She thanked the party for its assistance, apologized that she was sort of involved with this plight, said that the man that they executed was her brother Darius, but said that she couldn't share anything further until they got to safety. And she recommended that they separated and fled. And the last thing the party did just before leaving was, having investigated the area and seeing some other places where they could possibly hide, they gathered a little bit more material and then went down into the sewers, where they found themselves at the very end of the session looking up as one of these guards were standing above, and this other figure, sort of tall and impressive looking, but not this Illifor, looked down and said, find them, whatever it takes, and then left. And that was where we pick up now. So I want to jump us forward just about, let's say put it about a half hour from there, as you, the party, have been making your way roughly towards, in the direction away from the square, and hopefully towards another sort of central location. You don't exactly know precisely where to go, though, other than just you're on the run from these creatures. And about a half hour in, as you've been all trudging along in the sewers, I would like all of you to make perception checks for me, please. With your new characters, remember, your fantasy ones. And remember, your fantasy ones are level 2. Don't forget that. Your fantasy folks are 2. Okay. Oh, I see initiative, Kat. Was that? Okay.
So is that just
14,
My
16.
perception is +4. So
Okay, so then it would just be d20 plus 4. Yeah, because perception should
Okay.
include all that stuff. Fob like sees all. Okay. Wow, you all were apparently you're all fairly intense about this. I would say Beatrice, probably as you kind of float along, you may be the least kind of sure, like focused on what's going on behind you, I would say. The new drawing. But the others, Beauty a little bit, and definitely Fob and Nulls as well. You hear what sounds. There's lots of dripping all around. In fact, I should pop up a sewer soundboard. I'll do that in a minute. So you can hear that dripping, but you also hear, for a moment as you're walking, a very distinctive sound of regular splashing behind you, which stops when you stop. In other words, it's just like little drips, and then there's something, and then stops immediately when you folks stop.
Fob, you seem to be rather gifted in the art of stealth and hiding. Do you hear that?
The person following us? I do.
And who do you think that is?
I don't know, but perhaps if you all kept on walking, I could hide and see who shows up.
Well, isn't this quite a predicament we've found ourselves in? And I'm
Certainly.
jaunting along and making a lot of noise as I walk ahead.
Beauty will go up to Fob and will take one of the ribbons that she got from the ribbon store at the end of the last session, and will kind of attach it, pin it to Fob's clothing. And as I'm doing so, I'm going to use, because I'm a second level warlock now, I have an invocation. And so I'm going to use the Gaze of the Two Minds, which allows me to perceive through the senses of another creature.
Ooh.
So I'll still be able to walk. I'm going to have to hold on to someone's shoulder, maybe Null's, as we're walking, because I'll be looking through what Fob sees so that we can be aware of whatever Fob ends up finding out.
Okay, and Fob is stealthing the heck out of things. Okay, so and I'm sorry, Fob, you're moving back towards the sound, yes? Like while you stealth?
No, I'm not moving.
Okay, so
I'm
you're
gonna
just
let them
waiting.
move away,
Got it.
and I'm going to just sort of step to the side and wait.
Okay. And just to confirm, Beauty, are you? Beatrice, are you going forward with as with Nulls? As Nulls is like, well, I'm moving, type of thing, loudly. Are you floating along next to Nulls? Okay.
I am.
All right. So after a few, maybe 10, 15 seconds, you see Fob and therefore Beauty. You see a small creature, in fact, almost certainly a halfling in a cloak, come up to the edge of the little sort of intersection of pipes, large pipes where you had all stopped, and kind of look around cautiously, and then start to make her way through the intersection past you. Apparently, Fob not aware of you.
Are they following my party?
Hard to say, but you would guess so, because it looks like she was looking for and listening for sounds and so forth. So it would be it's a good guess.
Well, I'm going to let her get a little farther, and then I am going to sneak after her.
Okay. So one sneaks after. Who watches the watcher? Okay. So I'm going to have you make one more stealth as you do that. One more stealth check. Also, hi, Amanda Gedden. I'm going to have you do that.
And I suppose while that's happening, oh no. That's a nat
I didn't
one.
see the number, but I heard. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Ouch.
Beauty will inform as we're walking along, like holding onto Null's shoulder. Beauty will kind of say, "I think it's a halfling. Fob's following it. I don't know. I think she's following us. And that's all. Just to make
Okay.
sure the rest of the party knows what we see.
Rest of the party still walking then? Specifically,
Oh.
Beatrice and Knowles?
Yeah.
Does Fob look like they're in any danger?
No, Fob's just following them now. We could stop and maybe kind of flank this person.
What do you
What do-
think, Beatrice?
Yeah.
I'm going to remind everybody that Beatrice doesn't actually, but they float
Mhm.
Right. Floating.
and makes no
I mentioned
noise.
floating.
So, did you? Okay, all right.
I said
So-
float. Yeah, absolutely.
What does the environment that we're in look like? This sewer, like we just passed an intersection, and then Fob, kind of bled back and just kind of hid in the distance. As we're continuing to move forward, are we running into more intersections? What are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah, and you're pretty lost. The intersections right now these pipes are roughly about 6 feet in diameter, so they're large, but they're not, enormous. They, as you might expect, do not smell amazing, although, given what most people imagine sewers might smell like, these are far cleaner than you might expect, and you suspect there may be some Magitech at work with that, that may have made these a little bit less stinky than they might otherwise be, but there's still water and stuff like that down there, and some smell that's not super great. And there are multiple intersections, and they seem, and this is the other reason you think there might be Magitech involved, they're to almost seem featureless. Like every intersection looks like every other intersection. You've basically, I imagine, tried to stay going straight because it was taking you away from the square, but other than that, you don't have any particular details about where you are. You have not seen any other ladders up as of yet, I should say, by the way.
Which was going to be my other question in regards to height and pathways for Beatrice to be able to maybe kind of float up and kind of, get out of the way kind of a situation. So Beatrice
At
is
intersections, let me not to interrupt, just sorry. But at intersections, there is a little bit of a larger roof, so the roof might bulges a little bit, like maybe 8 feet above as opposed to 6 feet. But that's as far up as it goes. Everything else is no more than 8 feet, and the pipes themselves tend to be 6. Sorry.
right, and the way that we describe the beholder in this respect is that it's basically a smaller, medium-sized creature anyway, so that's not going to make a difference for somebody of Beatrice's physique. Beatrice just kind of continues to turn and taking in the situation, following along, and eyes are kind of moving around, and Beatrice kind of says, I imagine we should continue. I don't understand what's going on, but if Fob needs the opportunity to do their job, then that's what we should do.
Sure, I don't mind leaving it up to Fob. We're close anyway. I'll keep my eyes.
We
on
haven't been attacked yet, so I can only assume that the threat isn't immediate.
Okay.
There's an intersection up ahead. Why don't we mosey on over there and hide? If Fob needs us, we'll be able to hear.
Okay.
All right. There is indeed an intersection close by. Fob, as you are making your way up, you almost get this weird sort of sixth sense that your quarry is increasing her pace a bit. And you don't entirely know why that is, but she seems to be speeding up a little bit. You can tell me if you're keeping pace with her. I assume you are, but you tell me.
Yeah, I'll keep pace with her.
Okay. So she speeds up a little bit and then enters this intersection room. So what I would like is from now, I'm not going to ask Beauty to do this because Beauty is right next to, because you just have your eyes closed, you're not saying anything anyway. But I'm going to ask Knowles and Beatrice to make stealth checks for me, please, to see how well you keep things unaware for this.
And stealth is connected to what?
Stealth is dexterity based. So, but you may well be proficient in it, possibly.
Yeah, mine. Well, it says +2.
Yeah.
Okay.
You might be able to just click the number and it'll roll it instead of
Oh.
having to
Calculate.
having to
Which
type it in
one?
real-
The one at the
The-
top or the one off to the left hand corner?
Are you looking at D&D Beyond?
Yeah.
So do you see your stealth skill?
No.
It's basically this super tall table that says like acrobatics, animal handling, arcana, athletics. Do you see that kind of in the middle of the sheet?
Yes.
So near the bottom of that,
That
yeah.
makes
And then
that
there should
easy.
be- yeah, there you go. Hey, perfect.
12. Okay. All right. So, as you're waiting there, you also see this small, stealthy figure make her way into the center of this intersection, and she pauses for a moment, and then she turns and she's prepared to book it back, except she runs right at and then stops dead because she's looking at Fob, who is standing in front of her. And she stops and she like holds her hands up and she's like, all right, take it easy. There's no one needs to get have any problems here.
Bob is going to bare his teeth and hiss in a menacing way.
Easy. And she kind of backs up a few steps back into the intersection.
Beauty will pull out of the gaze into Fob's eyes and will start speaking and say, no worries. We're all fine. I'm assuming if you were trying to kill us that you would have tried it already. So why don't we just start with names?
And she kind of thinks about it and she says, that depends, I suppose. I've heard rumors about you, and I wanted to know if the rumors were true. Are you the ones who... Did you just destroy part of the square a little while ago? Was that you? There was a fight and a combat and lots of destruction, and I heard you might have been involved.
I mean, I don't know what you saw, but we tried to stop that from happening.
And we saved some people too. Now, if that's your definition of destruction, then I suppose we did.
And she pauses and she says, that's not the story that they're telling up there, you know. They've been telling people that there was a group of people that were obligated to track them down and find people and report them. Ilyor sent the word. The Primarch wants you found.
Yeah, great. No, I think that's kind of pretty inaccurate. Who are you? Are you some thief or assassin sent to kill us then?
If I was a thief or an assassin sent to kill you, I would have already done it.
That's what I said.
You all don't move very quietly. You, for instance, and she looks back at you, Fob. Well, I heard your splashing feet back there for a while, but I didn't think it would be a problem because I was going this way. You were going behind me until these other two showed up. That I wasn't expecting. But no, I'm not an assassin. I guess I'm a little bit of what you might call a bit of a spy when needed. I'm an investigative reporter. I'm from Renverith. And I'm also a guest, or I was supposed to be, of Camria's Artificers Guild here. I came here because there was a celebration going on, and they needed people in the guild. But the minute I got to Solus Morai, my entry was denied, and my invitation was confiscated by the Grand Magus' personal guard, Ilyor's herself. I wanted information about what happened, and I managed to find ways in that weren't expected. Once I got down here, after I gathered some information, I heard that there was a crew of people that were responsible for a lot of the combat, and I heard the same rumors that everyone else had. It didn't take long for me to figure out where you might have ended up, because, she kind of coughs a bit, this is how I got into near the square in the first place. The sewers, never the last place anybody ever looks, right? Anyway, I picked up your trail, and I figured eventually you'd lead me right to your conspirators. It is a conspiracy, right? I mean, that's what you're doing here. You're trying to
No.
overthrow Camria?
No, that's what we tried to stop. Someone came up to us. Someone from the guard. Her name was Elu, and she told us to help her try to deactivate some strange devices or something that were in the square. And we got to some of them, but then that whole thing on the stage happened. Were you there for that? Did you not see her brother go up in flames?
Her brother? No, I only got there afterwards, when all the shouting had died down. By the time I got there, the whole place had been cordoned off. It was an investigation of kind. I watched some of what they were doing, and I overheard them talk about who they were looking for. 4 radicals, they said, terrorists trying to overthrow the government. And they said that they were trying to find people who were responsible, get them tracked down if they could. So I figured I needed to find you.
Sure.
And-
You're from Renberth?
Yes,
So you know what it's like for people to be suspicious of you.
all the time.
So imagine how we feel right now with you being suspicious of us.
And she kind of looks at you and kind of sort of narrows her eyes a bit and nods and folds her arms, and she says, "That's a pretty good line, I have to say. Let's say that I believe you. Let's say that you really are not responsible, that you just got caught up in this. Well, what are you going to do now with half of Camria trying to find you?"
Get out of here. I mean, I'm from Renverth too. Astrofall, the academy there.
Yes.
I have professors and classmates that I'm sure would understand. That's where I want to go. I am a little worried though about Elu and everything that happened. I mean, you said that the government's labeled us as heretics and traitors, and I suppose that's true if the Grand Magus is now, if that's what he's saying, but he did just burn someone alive in front of that crowd. And I know you didn't see it, but
She sighs and she kind of like, she says, "Let me ask you something. If you had found one of these people, let's say you were in search of the radicals that had been responsible, and you came across them, what would you do if you were me?"
Well, you said you're an investigative reporter. Isn't it your responsibility to find the facts?
Yes.
And if these supposed radicals told you that somehow the Archmagus was blaming them and calling them terrorists, and they told you they were actually trying to save people, wouldn't you try to find out the real story?
And she kind of purses her lips and she says, "Maybe I would." So you're saying all 4 of you witnessed this happening. You didn't do it yourself.
we tried to stop it.
So she kind of straightens up and she says, "All right, then. Then you've got to go to the only one who's actually going to listen to you first before trying to arrest you or kill you. You've got to come with me. I can take you to Vitanda. If there's anywhere that you're going to find what you need, in fact, it's probably where Elu would end up too, if I know anything about her, you're going to find it at Vitanda's. He's a guard, but he turned an artisan, and he's related to Elu. Now, I may be wrong, but unless my sources have sold me out, and they wouldn't do that, I don't think, then Elu is worth trusting. I don't know still if I can trust you, but your words ring true to me somehow, and I go with my instincts. If you want to get out of this place, you can wander around on your own, or you can come with me, and I'll take you to Vitanda. Maybe there you can get some answers."
I look at everyone else.
Bob just kind of shrugs and seems very fobbish.
uh, I think maybe that would work for us. What's your name?
And she smiles and she says, I suppose you can't do much with that, even if you aren't who you say you are. My name is Tana Bryden. She bows slightly and she says, and if I lead you to this place, she lowers her voice. An exclusive? Maybe? Just, an interview, 15 minutes of your time.
You
I
got it.
mean, you've already started it, yeah.
She nods and brightens up and she says, all right then, let's get out of this stink. Batanda is a different kind of smell, but, well, if he baked bread today, that'll go a long way toward washing this off. And she turns and marches down one of the side passages, which will give us a chance to take our 5-minute break. Chat, you are watching day 8 of Expedition of Mysterious Peaks. If we have moved back to the fantasy characters, please stick around. And if you like what you see in here, please follow the channel. And please make sure to support these players by cheering if you like it, because the cheers and the bits will go directly to the players distributed at the end of the month. Otherwise, Toya and Johnny and Kat and Zach will be back in about 5 minutes. In the meantime, everyone, hold tight. Okay, welcome everybody. We are back from break, and welcome to the second and concluding portion of day 8 of Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks as I transition over back to the all cams, at least for the moment, before we get back into Camria. The party is being led at the moment. That's actually very true in very odd ways. So the party is being led currently by a reporter, by Tana Bryden, a halfling reporter, who is bringing them apparently to this place owned by Vitanda. And as the party goes down these sort of again, endless sewers, apparently, Tana moves with like complete confidence, as if she knows exactly where she's going, kind of goes down 2 spots, 2 sections, takes a left, goes down 3 branches, takes a right, and so on. And eventually finds her way to an intersection where there is, again, a ladder leading up as there was before. And she nods cheerily at you as she gets to the bottom, and then she climbs the ladder, and she bangs on the underside of it in this kind of like this kind of series of taps rhythmically, and there's a moment, and then as the trapdoor opens up, and she pops through the door and then leans her head over and she says, "All right, unless you want to stay down there in the stink, you might come up here."
Beauty will dash up to the surface.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and it's actually not the surface. It is, in fact, what looks like, for want of a better term, a large storage room. What about the rest of you? Beauty, Beatrice, Fob.
Beatrice is going to float their way up.
Okay.
Yeah. Head on up.
Nalls is heading up.
Okay. When you emerge out into this storage room, you see what looks like you have entered the back of a decent-sized shop. There are a series of shelves on the walls with all kinds of equipment and food, apparently, and a lot of it looks like sort of general gear, sort of general adventuring gear. There's candles and lanterns that are empty, and coils of rope, and things of that nature, backpacks and so on. And standing in front of you, talking animatedly with Tana, is Elu Whisperwind, and she chats with her a little bit and then smiles and says, "Well, I'm glad you did what you needed to do. Thank you, Tana." And Tana says, "That's fine. They promised me an exclusive. Just remember that." And she kind of walks over to the side and plops down, and says, "Elu, your uncle's not going to mind if I have this piece of cheese, right?" And Elu sort of looks over and kind of raises an eyebrow, and you note that the cheese that is being referred to is already in Tana's hand and is already half eaten. Fob, you're fairly impressed from a technical point of view, like quality workmanship on that cheese taking without anybody noticing. And so Elu just kind of shrugs and says, "That's fine. Just try to keep it to the one, all right? You know the way he can be." So Elu turns to you, all of you, and says, "I am relieved. I wasn't sure whether or not you were going to be able to make it here easily. In fact, I'm glad Tana was down there. I didn't want to have to go down myself, only because I didn't know where you were and it was going to take a while to track you down. But you're here, and I'm sorry. This isn't how things were supposed to be. I didn't know you were going to get caught up in this, but you have been. And in the end, all of Camria is going to have been caught up in it one way or the other, I think." She kind of shakes her head, and she says, Are any of you hurt?"
Not really, at least for myself.
Does this funk count?
And she sort of nods slowly, and she says, "Not entirely, but we'll be able to get you cleaned up before you leave. The sewers aren't the most pleasant place."
Beauty will say, "I mean, we're not hurt, but I mean, Alu, your brother.
And her
That's-
face immediately falls, and
I'm sorry.
so am I. And I appreciate you saying so. I never thought that this would happen this way. And then the door opens above you, and you note that there are a set of stairs leading out of this storage room upwards. Not a huge flight, but a small one. And the door opens, and in comes a fairly, well-built man in his later years, maybe his early 60s or so on, but still looks like has a lot of energy and vibrant and so forth, and has sort of a white hair and kind of a sandy white with some flecks of darker gray maybe in his beard, and a human, and comes in and shuts the door behind him, and he says, "All right, I think I've dealt with them for now anyway. No more customers, at least not while I'm on lunch break." And he sees all of you, and he says, "Ah, so you're the ones that Alu told me about. I hope you weren't too badly hurt down there. It's not a very pleasant place, as I'm sure she told you, but tracking someone down in the sewers." And then he looks over. "Tana, is that my cheese?" And Tana's like, and like, "No, it's not. I had they when they caught me, they punched me in the jaw. And I'm just like trying to chew the cheese, and the man sort of raises an eye, and he looks over at Elu, and she shrugs, and she says, "It's just one piece, Uncle." And he sighs heavily, and he's like, "One piece today." And he looks back at all of you, and he's like, "My name is Vatanda Dumark. I am Elu's uncle, and I know of Tana," and looks over in her direction, and she kind of smiles, still not opening her mouth, and looks back and he looks back at you, and he says, "I want to thank you for helping my niece. I had heard that something terrible happened, but, well, I hadn't heard from Alu until not very long ago when she came in here. She said that she was going to have some friends meeting her, and that the friends were responsible for having made it at all. So, if you helped her, that means you're automatically friends of mine, and I'll do what I can to help you." But,
Well,
and he stops.
well, thank you for taking us in, sir, and we're sorry about your nephew.
And he nods very slowly, and he says, "Darius was... The problem was he didn't know when to pick his battles. And Alu says, "Uncle, you know that's not true. He was just saying what he believed. Saying what you believe around here can get you hurt. Could have happened to you too, Alu." And he looks back and he says, "I love my nephew and my nieces, but Darius was too bold, too blunt, too out there. I didn't think that they would go as far as they have, but it looks like they did. And this changes everything."
Who are they anyway?
And he pulls up a kind of a crate, like an empty crate, and he sits down, and he gestures to several other empty crates. And he reaches down next to the crate, he picks up a couple of water skins, and he tosses one to each of you, although without paying much attention, he tosses it as well towards you, Beatrice, and then it kind of bangs on the ground. He's like, sorry, is there a way that you would make it easier for you to drink, or kind of trails off?
I take care of myself.
And he nods. He says, "All right, then. Well, Elu, you know the tale." And she nods. She says, "So, as you know, I work for the Primarch. I was in the Royal Guard, or at least I used to work in the Royal Guard. That's going to change after today. About 6 months ago, there were these people that started to show up, these devotees of they called themselves devotees of the light of Aoth. And many of them wore these outfits that you saw, that red and gold. Only a few of them wandered the streets at first, and we basically ignored them. Camria is big enough that you get all kinds of people promising all sorts of things, believing all sorts of things, and generally, as long as they don't cause disruption, they're free to believe what they like. But their order grew rapidly. There were more and more of them, and then eventually, some began to appear with the Primarch himself as advisors. I didn't like it, but my job is to serve, not to tell someone what to do. And Vitanda kind of, who has his arms folded now, kind of growls, "Of course, before you could have chosen to do things differently." And she looks back at him and kind of shakes her head as if, like, not the time or something. You get the impression this is a conversation they may have had before. And then she looks back at the four of you and says, "The only thing I know about them is that the light of Aoth's faith centers upon the belief of this realm of light where ancient earth spirits dwell. And according to what I've found, the devout offer to merge their souls with these spirits." And you hear Tana say, "Yeah, they say that they'll restore the world with their powers." That's what they say when they're not trying to convert you to their cult. And Elu nods, and she says, "Well, a month after the Aothians arrived, Primarch Lanek began to institute these laws that weren't like him, that harsh edicts and heavy taxes. He took away the right to assemble, the right to speak, the right to worship freely who they choose. In fact, he took away many basic rights away from Cambrian citizens. No one really knew what to make of it. The Primarch has always been sensible. Camria managed to avoid all of the problems that had consumed the realms before because of him. But I don't know." And Vitanda says, "I think you know, or you suspect." And she nods. She says, "Well, it's been over 2 months since the Primarch's been seen in prison. Prison. He should be in prison. In person, I beg your pardon. Has been seen in person. His orders are carried out now all by Illifor. That's the one you saw, Lanek's Grand Magus and head of the Artificers Guild. And the murderer of my brother, whom I will see dead when I get the chance." And Vitana kind of puts up, like, sort of almost puts up a hand towards her, and then is like, and she just sort of, not now type of thing. She says, "My brother Darius, the one that's dead now, he was the head of a faction of nobles that opposed the Primarch's new laws. And they were obviously trying to make an example of him. As far as I know, the other faction members haven't been found yet, but they're sure to be exiled now, or killed or imprisoned. They're trying to take out all dissent. Most of the royal guard are either dead or joined the coup, and those ones who are still in the city guard are following orders issued by the Grand Magus, by Illifor, and also by these damned Aothians." And Vitanda says, "A lot of people don't want to hear about any of this, of course, and a lot of people don't like what's happening. But Cambrians are afraid, and I don't blame them. It's been a long time since anything like this has happened, at least anything internal, and the last thing people want is to go back to war. But if we keep on this way, we won't have a war. We'll have a dictatorship where nothing matters except whatever the Primarch says." And Elu says, "If it's the Primarch doing it." And Vitanda shrugs. And she says, "Well, that's what I know. They escalated things in a major way today, as you saw for yourselves. But if we're going to stop them, we can't do it from here. This city's going to be completely in lockdown. We need to gather information, and that means we need to get out of the city. Besides, we need to get out of the city before they find you. It won't be pleasant what they do to you next."
How are we sure that the Primarch himself isn't indisposed, or I mean, would the people listen if it's the case that the Primarch himself has now been overthrown by his own magus? And what if they prisoned him just the same way that they've been exiling other people and killing them?
And Tana says, "I bet that's what happened." And Elu nods grimly and says, "Probably. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the Primarch at all. I'd bet money that it's not him that's doing it. Maybe someone got to him or imprisoned him or is speaking in his name. Illifor's always been ambitious, and a lot of the Royal Guard didn't trust her, but, well, she's good. Very good, very powerful. And the Primarch came to rely on her more and more. I don't know whether she was never in favor of bringing all the realms together this way, but over the last couple of months she suddenly got very happy to have this celebration. She said it was going to prove the kind of superior culture that Camria had. Now we know why she was pushing it as much as she did. And Vitanda said, well, for what it's worth, the Primarch's pretty powerful himself. I still say he's calling the shots. And Alou shrugs and says, the truth is none of us know. But whether it's Illifor or the Primarch, it doesn't matter. Unless the entire population of Camria rises up all at once, they're not going to be able to overthrow people with the power of the Guard and the mages combined. And that's not likely to happen. Some of the people in Camria probably believe them. There isn't everyone who loves this idea of bringing everyone together. You may have noticed some of that yourselves. There's some suspicion of people from other cities, other realms. We were at war not all that long ago, you know.
Darius had a group that was pushing back. Where are all of them now?
I assume gone to ground, hiding, maybe in the sewers like you were. If I were them, I would have gotten off this place, down to the Badlands below, start reconvening and regrouping. This obviously has gone way beyond what we thought it would, at least this quickly. If there is a coup and Illifor's in charge, or if the Primarch's calling the shots, either way, we're not going to resolve this diplomatically, at least not unless we can get to him. But you can't do that now. I was down to the Magitech gate earlier. That place is as heavily guarded as it gets. You go out that way, you'll be caught for certain. And Taina says, yep, can confirm. Sort of shakes her head. Or nods, I should say. Not shakes her head, she nods.
So, what is this information that you hope to find outside the city? What could we possibly do to help this without being in Camria?
Well, if we stay here, we're going to constantly be looking over our shoulders, and besides, we don't have any side of information that we have down there. But down there I have friends, people that I can actually travel to. I want to go to a place called New Camimport. It's on the edge of the Badlands. There are a lot of people there who are from all different societies and the realms. It's kind of a meeting ground, you might say, for a number of them. First of all, I might be able to find a couple of old friends who know more than I do. And secondly, I could get the word out. I don't even know whether anyone even knows what's going on in the other realms. What if they're just waiting, kidnapping a bunch of officials, assassinating others, waiting until the right moment, and then springing another war on everybody? Up here, we're not going to be able to find that information. But down there, where we don't have the guards looking over our shoulder, well, maybe we might have a better chance. And besides that, it would make sense, I think, for me to not be in this exact same spot. And Vitanda kind of sort of looks at her and says, so are you going to tell them? And she kind of looks over at him and then looks back and she says, Darius is my brother. You know that. Mava, that's our oldest sister. She is with my parents in Celis. And Vitanda says, and she says, I wasn't always a member of the Royal Guard. I don't think they need to know any more than that. And Vitanda says, really? Nothing more than that? And he stands up and he draws from his belt a short sword and in one motion swings it down. And in one of the fastest maneuvers any of you have ever seen, she is gone and has her sword right by his throat a second later. And Vitanda grins and he says, just a noblewoman, yes? And she kind of puts the sword away and she says, you did that on purpose. And Taina says, looks like you did, smiling as she leans over there. Vitanda says, I taught her to do that, so we're clear. She's more than a noble woman. She is an exceptional swordsman. And at some point, she decided she would leave her life of being a noble behind so she could pursue this. She thought she could do more good for people, instead putting herself at risk. And he starts to say, just like her... He stops and he says, anyway, Elu is important, and I care about her deeply. I couldn't save my nephew, but I'm not going to see her go down to the same fate. And that means that you're going to go with these people, if they choose to go with you, without false pretenses. No hiding, you understand? She kind of just grunts. He says, that's better than a no. Upstairs he hears a doof, 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 doof. And he says, a customer. All right, I'll be back. You go ahead and ask whatever you want. I'll deal with them.
What
And
do you sell?
And he says, he walks 2 steps up and then he stops, looks back. He says, why, everything. This is Vitanda's general store. You haven't heard of me? Anything you could possibly want, at least that's normally available to adventurers, you can find here. And he takes another step up and stops, and then he points to Tana and says, and no more cheese. And Tana, whose hand was halfway up towards the shelf, gradually sinks down again. And she's like, that's fine. It's probably too fattening anyway.
Can I have cheese?
And he's already up the door, and he says, have Tana give her the one that she just took. And he walks through the door, and Tana kind of is like, damn it, how does he always know? And she kind of tosses you this piece of cheese, Beauty.
I catch it and look at it and then hold it back out to Tana once once Vitanda's gone.
Ah, thank you. You're a person of culture and taste. She takes it back.
I try.
And so Elu looks at all of you and waits.
Nulls is concerned about this person who just came in, because she's just kind of suspicious now, knowing that
Okay.
the Primarch has sent people
Mm-hmm.
after the group.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to cast Unseen Servant to
Ooh.
have the Unseen Servant go upstairs and observe what's going on.
All right. That seems reasonable. And I think let me double check here. So, yeah, this is, I think, a good idea. As you're able to send the one up, I'm trying to think about whether... I'm not sure that the servant can communicate, though. The servant can perform, I'm just looking at the description, can perform the task to the best of its ability, so it can fetch and clean and pour wine and serve food and do all this stuff. So you could send the servant to open the door and look,
I'm not sure that Beauty knows what you're doing, but if she learns, she can help. So Nulls would have to convey what she's doing.
So I have this very handy spell where I can create my own phantasm figure, another person who's at my beck and command. And so what I want to do is send them upstairs, because I'm curious about who this visitor is to the shop. We do have people looking for us and after our heads.
That sounds amazing. What do they look like? Who's this person? You've just been hiding a person this whole time?
Well, I do have to conjure them up first.
Oh. Well, great. That sounds good to me.
So if you're going to do that, how are you going to help then, Beauty, since you mentioned that you're going to help?
Beauty's just waiting to see it. She doesn't know. She's kind of, crosses her legs, crosses her arms, just like, well, let's see this thing.
So I love the idea of seeing, how you have this image of Nulls doing this and then being like, where is this thing?
Yeah, Nulls, do you cast the spell?
Yeah. Do I have to do something? Do I have to roll or anything?
No, not for the Unseen Servant. You can just cast it. But of course it is unseen. So as you can command it, but at the moment, nothing else is going to be visible. So you're just sort of your Nulls is just kind of staring into space, basically, Beauty.
Do you guys see it? Where's
Baby, I told you it was unseen.
Oh. I wonder, where is it? I stand up and start like feeling around for it.
So there's a trap door. So the unseen servant would have to pull down the trap door. Is that correct?
No, the knock came from what is apparently, because the trapdoor leads into the storage room, and then there are
Right.
these stairs leading up to a set of regular doors, and that presumably goes to the rest of the shop. So
Okay.
it's just like a regular door the servant would need to open. Yeah.
So if the servant like very, slowly opens the door, doesn't open it all the way, but peeks inside the shop, would it be able to see anything?
It might, but it couldn't report it to you. That's
Okay,
the
so it's
thing.
going to have to go in.
Yeah. Well, no, either way, like it can't, since it can't communicate with you in that way, you wouldn't, like, you could say to it, go get Vatanda or something. You could say that, or you could say like, go and grab something from the front of the shop and bring it back here. You could do that and it will do that. But you can't say report on what you saw because it doesn't communicate in that fashion.
Okay. Could I say go observe Vatanda?
You could, but there wouldn't be much value to, because it couldn't report on what it observed because it can't communicate. Like, you can't
Okay.
see through its eyes or anything.
So it can go through the shop, pick something up off of a shelf,
Sure.
and then come back.
Sure. Could do that
Okay.
for sure.
Then
And-
let's do that.
Before it leaves, then Beauty will hopefully find this unseen servant eventually. And the same gaze of the two minds that I used earlier on Fob, I would try on the unseen servant.
Interesting.
Now, I'll admit, the ability says you use your action to touch a willing humanoid, which immediately feels like would not work. But the rest of it says perceive through its senses as long as the creature is on the same plane of existence. You can use your action to maintain a connection.
This is a good idea, but I don't think this works because you're dealing with, first of all, it's not even it's a shapeless force. Like, it's not
Right.
even like a humanoid shaped, let alone humanoid existent. I don't think that works, even though it's a good idea. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think you can do that. But the servant can certainly do what was described otherwise. So, Drew wants to know what the name of your unseen servant is, Nulls.
His name is Uncle Bones. That's Bonez.
Uncle Bones, the best. Okay, so Uncle Bones leaves, and you said, I'm sorry, you said you wanted to open the door and have him go get, and have him
Just fetch something off of
Get
the
what?
shelf.
Okay.
Like make a circle around the shop and pick something off of the shelf.
Okay. And while you do that, by the way, the door opens. You can hear through the door up in the shop, you can hear kind of a promise you finest possible silk robbing you, no reason for that, better deals next door, that type of stuff. And so you come back around the door. You all have this strange experience of watching the door kind of close with nothing apparently closing it. But floating in the air is what looks like a iron spike. And the iron spike comes down and then is handed over to you, Nulls.
Well, that looks useful. Say, Unc, what'd you see?
There is sadly silence and also no movement, obviously, and there's no response.
But
And-
I can perceive it though, right?
You can't perceive it. You just know that it's there.
Okay.
So yeah, and Tana says, Tana's like, wow, that's pretty neat. Are you like communing with it?
Not exactly. We just have a little knowing between the two of us. This isn't like a spirit or something. Just
Oh.
my own special magic.
Okay. Well, that's pretty neat. Listen, if it ever needs wants to do some part-time work, I've been looking for an assistant. So, just to help around the house, maybe.
Well, if he's working part-time for you, I'll give you my fee.
And she nods. She says, "Yeah, that sounds." And then she's like, as if calculating what that might actually mean. In the meantime, Elu is looking at the rest of you, and she says, "Well, when he comes back, we're going to have to figure out where we want to go, and I need to know what it is that you all want to do. I don't have any hold over you. I can't make you do anything. It's just that, well, now that we are where we are, it's going to be difficult for you if you try to stay here. But I think there is a way to escape, at least to get down to the Badlands, and I can see some of these connections, and maybe that will give us a way to kind of do what happens next. Worst comes to worst, at least it gets you out of Cambria, and you can figure out a way to get back to your own homes from there, right?"
I mean, yeah, admittedly, I'm curious about this new Camenport place. I don't know, Beatrice, what about you?
If the gates are closed, how do we escape? How do we leave the city?
And as if to emphasize your question, you hear a tunk, and the door closes, and Vitanda's at the top, and he says, "All right. Well, not bad, not bad. A reasonable deal. It's a good thing, of course, that I didn't happen to, no one else saw the iron spike moving around. Was that your handiwork, Tana?" And Tana says, "Nope, it was the invisible guy," and points over in Null's general direction. And Vitanda sort of looks over at Null's, and, "I don't remember seeing you walking around the store."
Oh, that was just a friend of mine.
"Ah, well,"
His name's Uncle Bones.
and he's, "I see." And he says, "Well, if you're looking for a way out, there is an option, but I don't know whether this is going to work. But Elu asked me about it, and she says, I think it'll work. Years ago, my uncle here and my brother spent years putting together something for just such an occasion. Well, it was kind of a hobby thing, but it's a gliding machine, you might say, powered by Magitech. It's made from spare parts. It's in good shape, I'd say. And we haven't had the chance to, fully test it yet, of course, but it's hidden. I can guarantee that. No one's found it. It's a cave
Let's do it.
from the Lightbridge station on Cespa. And she nods and she says, if we can get to that, we can travel to New Camenport and we don't have to worry about going by the gate. And Tana says, if you can get to it, have you actually tested this thing? And Vitanda says, I'm confident in the theory. And Tana sort of shakes her head and she says, well, at least I know where all your cheese supplies are. And Elu looks back at all of you and says, it's up to you, but going through that gate feels like suicide to me. I'd rather we take a safer path. And I think this is a pretty reasonable approach.
I'm in. Glider? Theory? Testing? Yes. 100%.
What about the rest of you? She says.
Bob is in favor of the safer path that you mentioned, yes.
She nods slowly. What about you? She says, turning to Beatrice.
Untested technology, I have my concerns, but I see no other way to leave.
And last turns to you, Knowles, and says, what do you think?
Certain death versus uncertain death. I'll take uncertain every time.
And she looks at her uncle and she says, I told you, these people felt different to me. I think we have a chance, maybe. And he shakes his head and he says, I hope so. But either way, before you go, I'll make sure you're well supplied. You can get some supplies from me here. you can make sure you're rested, and when you set out, we'll make sure that you do it feeling comfortable and as ready as can be. In the meantime, I'll put Taina to work here on something other than my cheese. Maybe she can gather some information that she can bring back for us if need be. And Taina sort of looks at him and says, well, I will get your information, and not because you're making me, but because I choose to do so of my own free will. And then you notice that there's just a little fleck of cheese on the side of her mouth. We will talk about the long rest and all that later, but I do want to mention just one thing, which is that as you're in the process, right after the long rest has concluded, and you're all starting to prepare yourselves to go, Vitanda, comes down and makes sure that you're set. And again, we'll talk about this next time, but also says, I think that we're all, and then he stops and he says, well, I didn't think I was going to see this outfit again. And all of you turn around to see that coming through the door of the store down into the storage room is Alu. But Alu is dressed much differently now. She has replaced her outfit with this.
Wow.
You can see her sword. You can see her hair, which has now is now just flowing behind her like this. And as she comes down like this, this is not a Royal Guard uniform as well. She is carrying something which you had not seen her using before. And Vitanda sort of seems a little bit taken aback at first and then says, yes, he would have wanted you to have it. And she looks at all of you and she says, this was my brother's sword. It was waiting for him whenever he was able to get back here. And now I'm going to use it. And I'm going to make the people who took him from me pay for it. Behind you, you can hear Tania kind of... And that's where we will bring our session to a close. In our next session, the party will get a chance to go off and actually do the stuff with the fantasy things now that you're here. And we are in a good spot now where you'll be able to get through it, and we'll be able to get the groups, I think, unified at the end. Really fun stuff, everyone. I'm very, very excited to see where all of you are going to go with this, with Alu, and with halfling, investigative reporters and, general store owners and all that kind of good stuff. And a glider. What could go wrong? You're just going to fly down. It'll be perfectly good. I can't imagine. I will start on the bottom right, and I will start with Zach first. Zach, good stuff today out of both Beauty and Jaraxxus. I like the idea that Beauty is continuing to be this sort of mysterious. Everything seems fine, but there's this obvious power that's below the sort of level of what Beauty is, and I think that's interesting there. Although it's hard because Jaraxxus is also super awesome, so I imagine that Jaraxxus is going to be kind of a fan favorite in terms of what the chat may or may not want, so I'm curious about that. But obviously Jaraxxus had some important things to say and do in the beginning of the combat, and it'll be interesting to see what you ultimately choose going forward between that or between Beauty. How'd you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I felt great. To be honest, I'm still torn. I'm more torn than I thought I would be between the choices of characters because I do enjoy them both so much.
Yeah.
The stylings and themes of Dr. Jaraxxus are just so fun to play out. The whole celebrity influencer scientist thing, which is totally accurate to me in real life. Scientist, celebrity, influencer.
Completely.
Yeah, I'm all three of those things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And with Beauty, I think, perhaps as we play on with our fantasy characters next session, we'll see how much more development is there. But it's been a lot of fun. I really have enjoyed these sessions, and I was also very impressed too by your play of multiple NPCs in the same room and bouncing off of each other, and like this idea that they have a history and they have relationships with each other that we're just sort of now becoming witness to. it was awesome. It was like something out of a movie, just watching all that stuff, and you did it
Oh, thank you.
effortlessly. So it was
It's a
very
balancing
cool.
act because I don't want to make it about me. Let me play out all my puppet
Yeah,
characters
no,
while
no.
you folks are waiting. So I have to
But
be careful about not doing it much. But
no,
thank you. I'm
it's
glad.
still good where it
Glad it
is
came out.
too. So yeah, that a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to see where it goes. This is only the beginning, so we'll see. The fine people will find me here again for this on
2 weeks.
our intermittent Saturdays, as will be, and also for our vocalists, which this month's session I
Be
believe will
awesome.
prove to be very awesome because we have potentially 2 new members of the Our Vocalists. I'm now the veteran
Yes.
Our Vocalist, which will be interesting. I hope to, by the way, Arv, have they did release a beta version of Voice Mod for the Mac. So hopefully
Ooh.
all those same tricks and traps that Dot was using, I'll be able to
Oh, slick.
also have. So yeah, that'll be a great time. I'm also on my own channel, twitch.tv/ZachClay, and then in other places, like I've said before, if you're in the San Francisco Public Library system, I am a celebrity and an influencer, but not a scientist. Anyway, all in good fun. But yeah, and then I will disappear now and cover this up as I have to head out. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you all.
Great stuff, Zach. I'll talk to you soon. And good work today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving right over. Kat, first of all, I actually got some interesting insight into Ziriel's character today that I knew there was some of it there, but kind of the sort of just the facts, like let's cut to the chase, in this case by somewhat literally cutting out, the sort of nodes in the human. I thought that was really interesting. And it wasn't like this horribly brutal, how can you brutalize? But there was very much a sense of Ziriel being like, listen, we need information. We need to find out
We
what's going
do.
on with this person. So whatever, which I thought was really neat. And then, of course, we already had Fob as a fan favorite, and that I think is going to be. I'm really glad we're doing fantasy characters the next time first, because you'll get a good hour and a half or so at least to play, and maybe that will help everyone make their decision about who they want to go with going forward. Because I like both of them. I like Ziriel, but I also really like Fob as well. So I'm excited to see how that. And I don't know whether you have any further clarity or whether you're also waiting to see how Fob feels, but I'm curious to see how you feel about that and how you felt about our session and where the folks will find you next.
I thought it was a fun session as always, and I'm also, it's nice to get back to the D&D game. I mean, I like the Esper Genesis characters as well, but I do like the D&D group, and I love Johnny's puppets in either incarnation, and I think Toya just does an amazing job with her characters who just have their demeanor, and Zach is
Uncle
just always
Bones.
delightful. So lots of fun. Looking forward to the next one. Where will you find me? You can probably find me most easily at my little school online, the Rambo Academy for Wayward Writers, which has its own little Discord server and classes and all sorts of cool stuff. And that's the best place to look for me.
Good stuff. Thank you, Kat. Always a pleasure. And I also want to say, because Kat came on board, as I mentioned this before, I think Kat was maybe the first person that I asked to be part of the Esper Genesis group way back. And I just wanted to say publicly, Kat, that I'm so glad that you agreed to do that and that you've been with us, because it's been really nice to have you as a part of this group. So I'm glad that that's continuing in another guy. So thank you,
It's a
Kat.
ton of
very much.
fun.
I'm
Much
really
appreciated.
glad. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. And you also, Kat's a wonderful writer, which you should already know, and you should buy all of Kat's books. Okay. Thank you, Kat. Moving right on up to Toya. Yeah, I mean, as usual, Toya, I agree entirely that the play is very good. And I liked again, maybe this is just me, because I'm like, I like seeing all of the characters. Like I liked all of what I saw from the different characters today. It was interesting to see more of Dr. Winterfield kind of filling things out. But man, Nulls is such a fun character. Like especially when there's something about the kind of the chill, just the vibe, right? Followed by the thing where you're just like, where Drew's like, what's the name? And you're just like, Uncle Bones. Like you just had that queued up and ready. Like that's clearly the name. Of course it's the name. Uncle Bones is definitely the name. I really like the way that character is put together too. So I am going to be really curious to see. I know we talked about dream connections, so that may be part of it, but still one of them is one that you'll be more inhabiting in the waking world, let's put it that way. And so I'm going to be curious to see which one you choose, because I do like both of them in different ways. And it's fun to see Null's work the magic as time goes on. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks see you next?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at Echo's emoji of
The skull
Uncle
with the branches.
Bones.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this ragamuffin looking. Yeah. Well, I'm very happy that my rolls weren't trash today, so that was nice. And also, Tana's a fantastic character. I so enjoyed her, especially that cheese. But I like cheese, so there was an immediate connection
Amen.
there.
Amen.
But yeah, I really enjoyed both segments. Everybody's alive. It was kind of touch and go for a couple of characters.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that everybody's alive. Dormith is his name, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He seems mostly on the up and up, mostly. So I'm interested in seeing how that develops. And as far as who I choose, well, don't try to out scheme a schemer. That's all I'm saying. Where can you find me on the internets? I'm not really on I'm on Twitter or whatever, but I mostly retweet dog photos and videos and other animals. And as I said last week, I have a new book out, which
Yay.
is on designing and writing visual novels, or if you are into branching narrative in games in general, that might be of interest to you.
It's good stuff, and you will see Toya prominently featured in the Gen Con Writer Symposium, as I mentioned last week. So you should definitely check that out too. But thank you, Toya. Good stuff, and I'm excited to see however the scheme unfolds. I'm excited to be a witness in a couple weeks. Always a pleasure. And last but certainly not least, also a pleasure to have Johnny with us. Johnny, I want to say, just quickly call out two things that I noticed tonight. First of all, playing Titus. As I told you, I feel like Titus has been this kind of started as a little bit of an under the radar character that has developed this full part of the story. When Titus was looking back at the kind of glassy eyed at the dead, I immediately had this visual of looking back at the dead human in the armor and just being like, wow, it's such a cool thing that almost works against type. It's not the guy that I constantly forget the name of from Farscape that Dragonspear is going to tell me.
Rigel.
Rigel. It's not Rigel, right? It's literally not. Rigel is is a jerk and nuanced, great character, but I mean, like, is a jerk. That's not what Titus is. So I really liked that a lot. The sense that there was this sort of depth to him. But then how can I not appreciate a freaking a beholder that doesn't know it's a beholder? How can I not it's great to see, and they're just two delightful and very different kind of characters. And be interesting to see, because in the case of Beatrice, there may be more that will come out over time. Now, a lot is riding on the fact that it is a beholder that doesn't know what she is. So more will develop over time. With Titus, we already know more about it, which again is why I'm glad we're doing fantasy next for the next hour and a half or so. So maybe you can get a little bit further into it. I'm curious if you have any sense of whom you're leading towards, and what you thought of today's session and where the folks will find you next.
I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah.
I know that Titus is the easier one to play right now, in large part because we did majority of the sessions with Titus, and
right.
Beatrice I wasn't there for the first session, so Beatrice really only got one session.
Yeah, that's true.
To really kind of experience, the sort of the mechanics of the story, and what we were dealing with was basically combat at that point. So we haven't really seen what's going to happen with Beatrice as a character. Just sort of in general. If I had to choose right now, I mean, my favorite from a concept perspective, Beatrice is still the much more interesting character to me. Titus is the more familiar character, but at the same time, we already know a lot about Titus. So maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I am really actually very curious about the other players making their choices. Each of your characters are amazing, and I can't seem to get a handle on who I like better. Although I have to admit, Fob is a fan favorite, and I totally dig Fob a lot. So, today's session otherwise was great. Loved. I have to agree with Zach. You did a fantastic job in being a narrator and conveying a scene and not letting us get lost in the performance. It was really great watching the interaction and the 3 different voices that you were doing, which is, as a GM, I understand how hard that can be and keeping those characters all together. So thank you, Greg. That was pretty fucking amazing. And the next place you'll see me is back here in 2 weeks. So it's going to be fun.
Awesome. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate everybody. Actually, chat, I'm curious, just while I have you here, this won't influence the players. I'm just curious myself. Do the players does chat want to give like the 4 characters they'd like to see? This is absolutely no hold on the players. I'm just curious. Or has chat not seen enough of the fantasy folks yet, and so they need to see more of them in a couple of weeks? I'm just curious because I saw Emily mention the thing about Fob is happening. But I wondered if Chad had other opinions about who they want. Echo has no idea. Okay. I think Drew had mentioned some of them. Rudinell can't make a call either. This is proof of how well you've done in assembling these characters, players. Because I heard this from some others too. Titus, Fob, Knowles, Zach. Zach is just whatever, default or something. It doesn't matter. Titus, Fob, Knowles, and Zach. Interesting.
I'm telling you, Greg, you should weave the stories. We should extend this a little bit longer. It's an interesting premise.
Well, and it's not, as I say, it's not impossible that the groups will not be able to make their way. They may be able to make their way back. I could see that happening. So I'd be happy with either from everyone. Wow. Well, there you go. I mean, that just shows you that is high praise, because the players have made both characters that all the chat likes. So that's pretty cool. So good work, players. Not surprisingly, these are good people and good players. So I will say goodbye to these folks, but we will see you back here in 2 weeks for more of this adventure. I'm excited. We get 2 sessions this month. Don't forget, chat, cheer. If you like what you saw from them, cheers and bits will help show that both tonight and in 2 weeks. So keep that in mind for these lovely folks. Can we get some love for our amazing players? And oh my God, and Shadowed Mage with the instant cheer. Thank you, Shadowed. Thank you very much. So that brings us to 500 tonight. Thank you so much. And you'll have a chance to do more chat in a couple of weeks as well when they come back. Thank you to my wonderful players. Thank you to Zach Clay. Thank you to Kat Rambo. Thank you to Toya Kristen Finley. Thank you to Johnny Pittman. And thank you to Emily with the 1,000 cheer. Wow. So we are at 1,500. Thank you. That is really awesome. So now we've 2114 first time, 1,500 this time. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. And thank you, everybody in chat. And players, thank you. Great work. I'll see you folks in a couple of weeks. Bye for now. All right. Lovely stuff out of the players. And I really have been enjoying these things. I should have realized that on one hand, I'm obviously going to like something that basically feels vaguely like Final Fantasy. Whoops, wait a second. Sorry, I didn't turn that video off. Something that vaguely feels like Final Fantasy to me, right? I've always liked the kind of magic, sci-fi combo stuff. I think is a lot of fun. And I mean, obviously Eberron, I think, has elements of that. And it's one reason I like that too. So I should have realized that was going to be good. I think there's really interesting world building here. And there is going to be a stage that's going to get much more sandboxy, where the players are going to have a little bit more freedom to kind of move around and kind of maneuver and get a sense of where they are. And so that's going to be very cool when we get there. And I'm excited to see who they choose. It's going to be really neat. But also, of course, it's an amazing player group. And again, I'm so blessed to have such good players in all of my campaigns. And this is no exception. These folks are great. Also, I'm glad that my office is now back to a relatively rational temperature. That we're basically back up right around to where I like to keep it, which is about 72, which is perfect. I feel nice and comfortable. So the hot chocolate saved us last night. It's also I think 26 or 27 out now. So it's warmed up, and it's going to keep warming up. It's going to be actually up in the high 30s tomorrow. And then it's going to be on Monday, it's going to be up in the 40s again. And it's going to be 40s and 50s the whole way. I'm glad that it's 61.7, although I hope it continues to go up even faster, Rudinell. But I was worried about you last night, actually, because you just kept reporting 40. 39. I just had this image, and I know you were like, yeah, but I'm from Maine, it's fine. I'm like, yeah, but you hit a low of 43. Okay. Woof. I mean, and I guess compared to what it was outside, you were in better shape, but still, like, it's nuts. But it was nice that we made it through. What I learned on my winter vacation is that my the mini split system we have here is quite effective, except when it gets down to 0 to 2 degrees for 12 consecutive hours. Then the mini splits are going to struggle a bit. Fortunately, I live in southern Connecticut and not in southern Alaska, so most of the time I'm not going to be dealing with 0 to 2 degree weather for 20 hours plus or whatever. 28.4. Yeah. So you're basically, it's funny, Echo. It feels like, Norway's and my, where I am in southern Connecticut's weather were pretty similar, actually, about that same way. So no one will ever forget the blanket stream. You'll slept in snowbanks. No, I know, but still, Rudnell. I won't either. No, that was fun. I really enjoyed the stream last night because it was nice talking with all of you. And I felt, I don't know. I think it always, I don't know if you feel this way, but I always felt things like that can be fun as long as everyone is safe. Like it can be fun to have things where we're like, we're all in this together. You know what I mean? But, well, right. 0 degree weather is not fun. It's fun to be in comfortable conditions and talking about it. I'm not at all claiming that people who are not safe because they're out in it is fun. That I'm not going to, minimize that. I'm just saying if you are in comfortable conditions inside, relatively speaking, there is something that's kind of fun in going through all of it together. But no, obviously, I mean, I'm glad Drew's internet is working too, because Drew's internet had collapsed because of the cold and everything. So I'm glad that everyone kind of, made it through. It was a pleasure to have you all here and for Expedition tonight as well. Yeah. Well, that's right. And that's something which, that illness is what did you miss? You missed everything, Dragon. 14 Fahrenheit. Yeah, you're colder than I am. Definitely, Drew. That's colder, but at least better than yesterday. Yeah, Hillness, that's the problem that happened in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest with Seattle. During the summer, Seattle, they suffered terribly during the summer conditions where temperatures were all up in the 90s because it doesn't get that hot there. At least it didn't used to. When I started, when my wife and I first started dating back 20 plus years ago now, the conditions there, the summer would get to high 70s, maybe low 80s, and so it would be summery, but it was never like way overboard. And that kind of mid 90s stuff, which, in New York, you don't get a ton of all the time in the summer, but you certainly get some of it. I mean, there's certainly the dog days. They didn't have that. So a lot of people, they don't have air conditioners at all. They just never needed it. And so that was an example of something which really has to ramp up infrastructure. So there's a big part of that. I felt enough when stairs in Canadian prairies. Yeah, I know. Well, but it's an accident though, Echo. It can happen. It's an accident. But I'm glad, of course, you were not gagged here. But stairs in Canadian prairies. Yeah, well, that's it, right, Shadow? I mean, weather obviously is going to be different all the way around. Look, I don't expect that we're going to start getting now 0 degree temperatures all the time. Weather is not climate. It's just that you will sometimes have extreme weather circumstances that happen like this. And so, yeah, it's now 0 as opposed to negative 40. Basically, yeah. I mean, and the systems in here, I realized if it gets up to like a little bit past 90, like once you get to 91, 92, the air conditioners, like if you get like 8-10 hours of that, days in a row, the systems are going to struggle to keep up a bit. And similarly, when you get below 20 degrees, 18, 17, 16 degrees, and you keep up that for a couple of, a number of hours in a row, the systems will start to struggle. So really, between 20 and 90, these systems will keep you very comfortable. But anywhere in between, like after those fringes, they get a little bit more difficult. So yeah, stairs in a place named Winterpeg, nicknamed Winterpeg. Yeah, it's true. I don't mind. Again, as I say, I don't mind. My son was the one who was, I'll tell you folks this and then we'll wrap up. My son had this today. So my son has this basketball program that he goes to. So we got up at like 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday and we got him all ready and it was still a single degree. We obviously got everyone bundled up, went outside, got to the gym. They had canceled it because the guy who runs it had gotten sick and it was too late to be able to like notify people the official way. So we were just like, really? So we turn around, we get back, whatever. As he was driving back, he was a little disappointed that he didn't get to play, but mostly he was just like, he's like, wow, it's really cold. And we were like, yeah, it's cold. He's like, but there's no snow. He just was he's like, but there's no snow. It was like this sort of despondent, And so I haven't had a chance, Echo, but I'm going to show him the picture you sent, which I'm sure he'll appreciate. But he was just like, what is the point of super cold without snow? And I was like, that type of thing. Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying, Echo. I'm going to show it to him. I haven't had a chance yet, but I did tell him that you sent me something, and I'm going to show it to him. So, yeah. I will definitely show it to him because he wants, if like we don't live in Florida, we're happy to have snow in the winter. I don't want to get hit by 50 feet all the time, but like I don't want Buffalo Lake effect snow, but I certainly don't mind having snow sometimes and being able to go sledding and snow, whatever. We've had zero snow and instead we just get frigid cold, and that's not a combo I want. Like if I'm going to have snow, give me snow. I don't necessarily want frigid, air and no precipitation. Like that's, Oh, God, Hillness, dude. 6 hours. 6 hours. To try 11, my friend. No, it wasn't 11. I think it was like 9.5 or 10, though, because it was long. It was, oh, man. Yeah, I just still can't even believe in a way that happened. It was so surreal when it was happening. I was just like, you're trying to be optimistic. No kidding, right? It was something. I feel like if they had been hit by a blizzard, they would have been better able to handle it than just a little bit of ice, which is basically what it was. It was not even a lot of ice. It was just a little bit of ice that they weren't prepared for. And they had a bunch of accidents. And then once they had all those accidents, then they had all this problem because they couldn't get tow trucks to pull the cars out. So the lines just kept building up, and it's just like, it was, yeah. I think they would have been happier with like a foot of snow instead of getting half an inch of ice. It just was timing. Timing was just blah. This was a few years ago, Dragon Spear. I left, I talked about this, I think, on stream. I left my class. At the time, I had a class that ended at 6:25. So I left campus at 7. And it was a Thursday night. And I left campus at 7. And Google Maps was just a sea of red. It was just red roads on Google Maps because there was nothing. And I was going from, at the time, Queens, to where I work, to the Bronx, where I lived at the time. Now I live in Southern Connecticut. And getting there was just, there was no good way to get there. There's no good way. The only thing I could have done, which in retrospect now I would have done, is to go east into Long Island, take the ferry over into Southern Connecticut, and drive all the way back to the Bronx. And that would have taken me 5 hours, which would have saved me roughly half the time it took me to go just a trip that normally takes me 40 to 45 minutes when I was doing the Queens to the Bronx thing, took me like 9 hours. I left at 7 p.m. and I got in at about, I might have even been longer because I got in, I want to say at like 5:30 in the morning. So I think it was more like 10 and a half hours. It was ridiculous. Right. And I think that's what happened to Rudinell, combined with the fact that you had these like plows and stuff that just kind of spun out, and then there was no way to, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare, but we're here now. We survived. That's the longest that I've ever been in a car, by the way. That there were a couple times where we were stopped anyway, and I got out just to like stretch my legs briefly. But other than that, I was just in my car the whole time, essentially. And I like driving, but this was not the kind of driving you want to do. I'm here to tell you. So anyway, I am going to close up shop for today. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you folks did as well. And we are going to do a raid today because it is not late comparatively for when we normally are. Good night, Hillness. Good to see you as always. Thank you. So we are going to do a raid, and the way that we do raids here are very simple. If you are a sub, if you're not a sub, you're going to do this. The Arvanauts have landed, followed by Twitch raid. If you are a sub, you're going to do this. Arvanauts have landed, followed by Twitch raid, Arvany roar. You can put in Arvany witch, Arvany woe, Arvany smug, Arvany love, Arvany blown. I saw Amanda Geddon putting in a Arvany witch in there. I love to see those sometimes. Arvany hype, of course. All of these you can put in when you are brought over automatically to the folks that we are going to raid. Sounds good. Sleep well, Arudinel. smell. Enjoy the blanket fort. If you folks liked what you saw and heard today, please follow the channel. Please check out our YouTube with !ArvTube. Discord is !ArvCord. Twitter is !ArvTweets, and website arvanelleron.com. Financially, !ArvShop for the merchandise area. !ArvTreon is that Patreon, which gets you inspirations to use with your players. We didn't need any of those tonight, but I'm going to reset the inspirations pretty much after the stream. I'll be doing that in probably about a half hour or so. So we've got that. And of course, you can get cool stuff for yourself and the channel. We want to get that back north of 200. I'd love to get this high enough where I can do another Talisman tournament and or love to do another Arvanaut Idol contest. So there's a ton of stuff that I'd love to add into the mix once we get there. So we just have to keep that heading north to be able to do that. Subbing to the channel, as a few of you did today as well, very much appreciated. So thank you for that. Thank you for the resubs, and thank you as well for the cheers that everyone did. Thank you for the 1,500 bits today from Dragon Spear and from Shadowed Mage and from Emily. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everyone, for having watched and being awesome. Also on the publishing side, Icarus is my Icarus graphic novel from Athos Arts. Library is Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment, the sponsors of Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks. Greyshade is my novel, which came out from Athos Arts last year, which I'm very proud of. That's the first book of the Grey Assassin trilogy. If you go to that link, you can buy that book right now, and you can also pre-order the sequel to it, which is Renegade. That'll be out later this year. Heretic will be out next year, and that will conclude the Grey Assassin trilogy. And later this year, you can also pre-order the tabletop role-playing game of Greyshade, being designed by Brandon O'Brien. And you can get the audiobook of Greyshade being done by Trent Sparks. So you can find all of that over on the Greyshade link. Finally, of course, BLM, Black Lives Matter. As always, important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Help Now, which is the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And Ukraine, UKRAINE, to help the fine people of Ukraine to fight back against an illegal and illegitimate and devastating war. They are doing so with bravery and courage. This is our chance to stand up and help them out in the ways that we can and send the message. We will do that for others as well. Quick note on scheduling again. We will be off tomorrow, but I do want to encourage you to check out Drew because Drew the Damager, 1 sec. So, what was I saying? Drew, yes, Drew is going to be streaming tomorrow, so definitely check out Drew's stream. Drew's been doing Chained Echoes, which has been a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of that game, and I've been watching it and having fun. I've been lurking quite a bit. I know Rudnell's been over there quite a bit as well. So go over and check out Drew. Follow him. Let's see if we can get him to that affiliate status as well. Definitely check out Drew. That'll be Sunday night. Monday, we're off. Tuesday, I will be back. Remember, starting over at GOG.com's Twitch channel again this time. I'll be over there from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern with Pen and Pixels playing Chained Echoes. And then I will be back on this channel at 5 p.m. Eastern for the second session of Shire Adventures, which is our new campaign sponsored by Free League Publishing for the Lord of the Rings role-playing 5e. So that's super exciting, and I'm excited to have more of that. So we're going to be doing that on Tuesday, then off Wednesday, Thursday, and then back Friday with Court of Blades live on the road from Farpoint with the power of ARVBox 2.0. So that's what we got going on. Please spread the word and let everybody know. Thank you to my wonderful mods, Dragon Spear, Drew, Emily, Hillness. Rudnell was here before. Thank you, the best mods in the business. Thank you as well to my subscribers and my Patreon supporters, Dragon Spear and Drew and Emily and Hillness and Echo and JLC and Mrs. Dunsel and Video Store Cowboy. Thank you again to the Dunsels for the hot chocolate and fritters last night. Thank you to 01 Ella, to Galadriel Bot, who's totally not a bot. Thank you to Haliquin. Thank you to I'm not sorry for testing unless that's a bot. Thank you to Iscariot Paladin. What's up, Iscariot? I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you to Jeff Fiji. Thank you to Kata. Thank you to Optic Nerve as well. So don't delete yours. All right, that's fine. I'm going to reset it tonight, but I'll leave it on because I trust you, Echo. So I will do that. And that, folks, is going to do it for me. Stick around for the video, and then right afterwards, we'll head over for the raid, and I'll see you back here on my channel. on GawCom's Twitch channel, 2 o'clock for Chained Echoes, and then back here at 5 p.m. for Shire Adventures. Stick around. We'll raid after the video, and I will see you folks soon. Until next time, everyone, please be good to each other. Have a good night.